Yeah.
All right.
What's up?
What's up, man?
How are you?
How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. You know,
So,
first off, thanks.
Talk to the crowd. Tell us who you are.
Who am
Where are you
I?
based? What do you do? How did you get started with Photoshop? How did I meet you? Any one of those you can start with.
Man, that's a long list of questions. All right. Well, I'm Corey Barker, of course. I'm a artist, designer, educator, all the above. Worked for Kelby One for many years, and now I run my own site. It's called PhotoshopMasterEffects.com, where I do all kinds of really cool stuff with Photoshop.
Wait. What was that URL again?
That's Photoshop Master Effects, and then it's FX, not the word FX.com. So
Photoshop Master FX, as in the letters
Yes.
F and X.com. Okay, got it.
So I have a lot of new training on there, and I've actually got a new book coming out next month, May. I've done the Down and Dirty Tricks for Designers books, volumes 1 and 2, and then next month I've got a new one out, and actually I'm loving the title of this new one. It's called
the new one?
How to Create Badass Effects in Photoshop. That is actually the title.
You have a cover of that book we're going to see later.
Yeah,
at some point,
actually,
I'm
I
sure.
have the cover. I'm going to show you a little bit later. Actually, had a lot of fun putting that together. It's a really great book. It's handbook size. Like the Down and Dirty Tricks books were really big.
Yeah, they were
and
like that.
Yeah, they were big, but this is more of a handbook size, something you can have as a quick reference. And the tutorials are shorter, so you can have little bite-sized chunks and everything like that. So I'm really excited about it. Be looking for it. It's coming out next month, and I can't wait. So yeah, like I said, I'll show you the cover, and actually going to show you some stuff from within the book throughout the next 3 days
Okay.
as well.
So tomorrow we're going to do this interesting thing that you and I talked about, possibly, depending on how today goes.
Yeah.
And why don't we give people just a little teaser of what that might be?
All right.
Just tell them a little bit about what we're thinking.
And it's actually an idea I'm doing at Photoshop World in July. And what we're thinking about doing here tomorrow is something kind of like an improv hour, where I'm going to pick out a handful of images. You, the audience, are going to pick out those images. It's like an improv comedy show. You're going to pick out the images and give me a subject or scenario that I'm going to actually build the design right here live without any prep. I mean, the only prep I'm going to have is a handful of images I'm going to gather.
Right.
You are going to pick the images.
You're going to pick like 3 images of the selection of images, and he's going to have to put together a composite with whatever the 3 images are.
I will not have any pre-thought as to what I might design. I'm going to have to think
Totally
about
random.
it right on the spot. So we're going to play around with that tomorrow. That should be very interesting. So,
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're ready to maybe switch over to your computer.
Yes.
All right. And then we're going to actually get started with something in Photoshop that I can't wait to see, whatever it is.
All right. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff on a whole big bag of tricks I want to show you guys over the next 3 days. But I thought I would start out with something that I was playing with that I think is really cool. Of course, it's 3D in Photoshop. Of course, everybody. I mean, I have to set it up. My work is largely inspired by movies and television. I'm a big fan of movies and such like that. So I'm really big on doing movie posters and things like that. But I'm also really big on 3D in Photoshop. Really have been doing a lot of cool
You
experimenting.
were like one of the pioneers of 3D in Photoshop from a user perspective. Like you were one of the first people I saw, not just playing around with, but actually creating stuff with every new version that came out with 3D.
That's right. I mean, early on, it showed up in CS3, I believe, was when it first came
Ooh,
in.
don't take me back that far. I have to remember.
But it's been quite a while, and what it has become versus what it when it was first introduced in Photoshop and what it is now is just, it's evolved to quite a really creative tool. And I really had a lot of fun doing a lot of experiments. And that's the thing, is experimenting. There are a lot of things you'll find in a lot of training out there, but they're only going to show you so much. You really got to get in there and just play around with it, see what these features can do. And that's largely how I end up with a lot of the cool effects I get, is that something happens.
But there's a difference. When I play, I want to just close without saving. When you play, you actually come up with stuff that people want to see and use. So
That's
you're
what, well, and that's kind of the way I look. It's weird how everybody, people always often ask me, how do you come up with the stuff? I come up with the stuff I would want to learn if I was, starting to learning now.
Okay.
I'm looking for the training that I would be looking for if I was an up-and-coming designer.
So you get your, from what I've seen, especially with the movie posters, you look at something like a poster and say, how did they do that? Let me go figure it out.
Yeah, and if they didn't in fact do it in Photoshop or they designed it differently, I want to figure out how I can do it in Photoshop. How can I reverse engineer this, break this down? And it isn't always just copying a poster. It's like I'll see parts of it, and another thing I do is try and just recreate something you've seen before. It helps sharpen your skills in the program. if you try and replicate an effect or something like that, that you can take a technique or a piece of that and then take that to your work and just evolve your work in that way, just by taking little bits of little nuggets that you learn as you're experimenting and then use those in your own work as you go.
Cool.
So,
all right, let's see something.
All right,
I
so-
won't interrupt you anymore for the next 5 minutes.
So what I want to show you first, of course, is a new 3D thing I actually came up with. There's a lot of really cool stuff, like I said, Photoshop does with 3D. I'm going to make a new document here. All right. But one of the coolest things is you can create illuminated objects. Now, there are a bunch of different types of 3D lights and stuff you can create and light your object and do all these really cool things. But I was playing around with, and what I've been struggling with, this is actually something I've been struggling with for like a few months. And usually if I have an effect in mind and I can't get it in like a couple hours, I just abandon it and just like, I don't forget it. So, but with this, I was trying to get this kind of forged, hot, glowing steel effect.
Yeah.
And was trying it with layer styles and just almost everything, any feature in Photoshop you could think of that you would experiment with. I tried it and it just wasn't working. And I kept coming back to it. I'm just like, I'm never going to figure it out. So I would leave it, came back to it, and finally, about 2 weeks ago, I hit it.
You did it.
I had that eureka moment. And it's actually it's using 3D in Photoshop, but it's incredibly easy. And once I realized how easy it was, I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
I think I might open Photoshop as well.
So
Try this.
I'm going to go ahead and create a new document here, and I'm just going to make it a square format, about 1,500 by 1,500 pixels. And I'm just going to invert my background here. So it's going to make a basic shape here. And we're just going to keep the shape simple just for the sake of demonstration here. But the cool thing about this is once I had the effect down and I tried it on just a basic shape, it can be translated to text and other objects and other kinds of things like that. So it's really, really cool. So I'm going to go and grab a symbol, just a custom symbol here inside Photoshop, and just draw that shape out. Oh, let's make it a shape layer. Fill it with white. Fill it, not stroke. There we go. Okay. So now, I'll turn off my background. I'm actually going to make the shape black. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make a 3D object. So I'm just going to go to the 3D menu and go down here and choose New 3D Extrusion from Selected Path. And it goes ahead and extrudes the object. I'm going to go ahead and grab my camera here and just rotate it so you can see what it's done there. Now, that extrusion depth is obviously way too thick. So I'm going to go in and shorten that up a little bit. So let's open up the Properties panel. And let's set the depth around 50. There we go. Okay. Are you with me, Terry?
I'm with you. I'm getting my shape there. I'm almost there.
All right. So I don't need the ground plane shadow, so I'm going to select my environment property here. And if you've never used 3D, the two most critical panels, well, three, you got to have when you're working in 3D is your 3D panel, your properties panel, and your layers panel. Of course, your layers panel should always be up. All right, so I'm going to make that shadow 0. There we go. Now I'm also going to put a bevel on this object. So let's go into the shape object and go to the deform properties, which is the second tab up top here. I'm sorry, no, it's the third one for the cap. And why is that called cap? I still don't know that. Okay. I'm going to raise my bevel with, and this is unlike layer styling where the bevel is just an illusion. This is a actual bevel on an object. So if I were to rotate my view, you can see it's actually got that kind of beveled edge to it. Okay. Now, before I go to the next phase, I have to go and get my particle image. Okay.
All right. While you're doing that, I'm going to answer some of the questions I see in the chat. So you guys, because you're our part of this, so we don't want to ignore your questions. One of the questions I saw was, is he using a mouse or a tablet? He's actually using his Wacom Intuos small. I don't think I've ever seen you not use a tablet.
I never am not using a tablet.
Right.
I don't remember the last time I used a mouse in a creative
Yeah, you didn't even bring one.
No. Mouse, what is that?
Mouse, what is that?
Oh,
Right.
yeah, so this is the Intuos Pro Small. It's one I travel with, but I actually have the medium and a large at home.
Yep.
I use for different reasons. And I do have a Cintiq. I don't use it as often, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of the tablet. I just simply can't do anything without it. In fact, when I travel, it's like my checklist on if I don't have this, it's like it's got to be with me at all times.
Got it.
Anyway. In fact, I started to freak out this morning because I couldn't find my pen.
Yeah. Well, we had a Cintiq over there.
Oh,
just
yeah.
in case.
So, were there any other questions?
I think that was the only question that I saw. There were other comments.
Oops, somebody's plugging my YouTube channel. Thanks for that, whoever that was.
All right, continue.
All right, so I want to make a brush now, and I want to do it kind of a particle brush, and I'm going to use this image here, and this is just a scattering debris image, and I'm just going to remove the color. Just press Shift-Command-U, and I want to boost the contrast here. I don't want to have as much of the softer areas around here. So you could do levels, you could do a whole bunch of different things, but here's a quick trick. Just do a Shift-Delete and set the fill to white and then the blend mode to overlay. And when you do that, you'll get this. It's a little bit more than I want it. Let's actually do it. Let's actually do the opposite. Let's do the black. And darken that, and then do the white. There we go. So now we got a good amount of contrast there, and obviously when you're defining a brush, the darkest areas of your image are the most opaque. So this is actually what I'm wanting here.
All right, couple follow-up questions.
Yeah. Oh.
Have you used an iPad Pro and Apple Pencil yet, and do you mentor?
No and no. No, yeah. I have not used an iPad Pro over there. In fact, Sophie's right over there playing with hers, and
Here's
it's
one
really
right
cool. Yeah. So, no, I really like to try it out. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. And mentoring, sometimes it depends on who it is. So,
Right. Continue.
message me through my site. There's actually an Ask Me tab on the top of my website that you can ask me questions and requests like that. So go ahead and check that out. All right. I'm just getting rid of the areas around the edge of the document here because I don't want to have that much going on. So I'm just going to use my eraser tool as whoop. And, really? There we go. Okay. So we'll just kind of clean that up there like that. Now, this actually is at full size. I don't need it quite this big, so I'm actually going to size this down just a little bit. And now I'm ready to define the brush. Now, I don't need to make a selection or anything like that because the background is just pure white and the objects are black. So all I got to do is just go to Edit, Define Brush Preset, and we'll just call it Particle Fun. Why not? So now that is defined as a brush. It ignores the background white area, so it's all that white area will now be transparent on the brush itself. So, let's actually see what our brush is doing here. I'm going to make a new document real quick. Because all we've done is define the brush shape. So there it is right there. But if I just click and drag with it, it doesn't do anything. It's just staying in a straight orientation. So we've got to change the behavior of it. And this is another one of my most favorite features of Photoshop is the brush engine. So many different cool things you can do with that. So I'm going to open up the brush controls. Here we go. And first thing is let's increase the spacing here a little bit. And then we're going to activate Shape Dynamics. Size jitter, let's pump that up all the way. Angle jitter, yes. Roundness, why not? Flip X, flip Y, just check everything on. When you're in a panel and it has sliders and buttons, just try and slide those all over the place, see what they do.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing is you can't know the effect you want to get until you know what a feature does in Photoshop. So if you have time, and this is something I did a long time ago. I don't need to at this point because I pretty much spent too much time doing it.
And that's, I'm glad you say that because that's kind of one of the reasons why I like working in Lightroom and the Camera Raw filter in Photoshop because it's all sliders.
Yes.
So you can't go wrong. If you slide it one way and you don't like it, slide it back the other way.
Right.
So you can't mess up.
Right, and push them all over the place. Just see what it does to your image. You might, there might be an effect you've been wanting to get or something like that, and there's probably a feature in Photoshop that does it. You don't quite realize it does, so just play around with it. So we've got my brush behavior looking pretty good. You'll notice the preview shows up in the panel. I'm just going to paint a little dab there. So see, now I've got this kind of cool particle thing happening with that simple brush element. So now it's looking much more interesting. Now, because I'm using a tablet, pressure sensitive tablet, I can actually turn on pressure sensitive features. Like if I wanted I'm going to activate transfer. If I wanted to have the opacity of the brush as I paint vary its intensity, so I'll just activate transfer and then in the control menu here to set pen pressure. So now if I just touch very lightly on the tablet, you can see it gets very, very soft. If I press harder and harder, it gets more and more
And
intense.
this is the number one reason why you need a tablet.
Exactly.
Because you can't do that with a mouse, trackpad, or trackball.
Precisely.
A mouse is either on or off, clicked or not clicked. Pressure sensitivity in a pen or pencil is going to let you do things that you can't do with a mouse.
Precisely. And I'm not using pressure all the time. That's a cool thing too. It's something you can turn on or off. You have it only on when you need it. But there's pressure sensitive features in Photoshop, of course. There's pressure sensitive features in Illustrator. I mean, there's a lot of the Adobe applications really do support the pressure sensitivity here. So now you can see I get this really kind of cool particle thing happening. All right. So I don't need this document anymore. That's my brush. So now let's go back to our 3D object. So what I want to do is, like I said, I'm going for this kind of glowing forged metal look here. So I'm going to start with the front face of the shapes, which is the front inflation material here. So let's, in the 3D panel, go ahead and make sure that's selected. And right here, you're going to see in the properties panel, these features at the top. You see diffuse, specular, illumination. And illumination is what we want here. I'm going to click on the folder icon and create a brand new texture. And I'm just going to make it the same size as the original document. Oop. That did not look like the right size. Okay, here we go. So another square size there. Now the cool thing, when you're in a texture document for a 3D object, you can actually turn on these UV overlays in the properties panel. It will give you a kind of a wireframe of your original shape. Now because this is an illumination texture, it's going to actually give off light. So I'm going to add a kind of yellow color fill here. And when I save the document, it's going to update over there in my document. And it looks like just a simple color fill on the object, but it actually is giving off light. Once you do the render, you'll actually see it kind of doing a glow in a little bit. But it's obviously just a clean yellow light. We don't want it to be that. I want to have that kind of ash and other stuff on the texture. So we're going to use our brush here in just a moment, but I'm actually going to go and get another texture here. And I'm a big fan of course, textures and everything like that because I'm doing a lot of 3D stuff, and this is the one time I can't find the texture I'm looking for. But the point is, and one thing I'm always telling people is like, look at a texture as for what its final result's going to be. I mean, this particular texture I'm looking for, which I know it's here. There it is. Okay. So this is just a simple cracked pavement texture. Now, you wouldn't never think of using it in the way I'm going to use it now, but that's the way you got to look at it. You got to look at it as not a picture of cracked pavement, but it's just cool cracks that you could use in a variety of different ways.
Did you just say crack was cool?
Crack was cool.
Don't say crack was cool.
Well, in this case, no. So,
This one time.
just this one time.
I got
swear.
Jason with that one.
That's what I told my therapist anyway. Anyway, so I'm going to remove the color from this texture here. Just makes it black and white. And going to do a little bit of a levels adjustment here. Let's make the actually before I do that, it's too much detail and grit on the surface here. So let's actually smooth that out a little bit with a surface blur because I want to keep the sharp edges here on the cracks. So I'm going to use surface blur to really kind of get more of a smooth blur over the solid areas there, like that. Then do a quick fill. Let's do that white overlay fill, and it's going to force a lot of the lighter areas to white, but yet maintain some of the darker areas we want. There we go. And now I'm just going to take this texture as it is and just drag it on over to my working file here. Now I only want this texture to be on kind of one side of the object because I want to have it kind of more of a hot glow on one side, and then as it fades to the other side, it's more of a, got the dark ash all over it. So we're going to leave that there. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it that for the moment. So now, I get there. Any hot questions, Paul?
No, we're still talking about crack.
Somebody said crack was whack. Good
Yes,
for you.
It is good.
All right. So now what I want to do is make a selection. I actually want to extract the cracks out of that background area there. So I'm going to use a little channels trick, just basically make a luminance-based selection here. So in the channels panel, I'm going to just command click right on the RGB channel. It loads the bright areas as an active selection. And just going to go ahead and create a new layer and fill it with black. Let's see there. There we go. So I get something like that. So basically we've deleted the cracks themselves so the light area is shining through. So now what I'm going to do is add a glow to this. Just a simple outer glow. And let's give it kind of a red glow here. There we go. So you can see how that's kind of giving me that hot edge on the objects themselves there. So click OK. Now if I do a save at this point, you can see what I'm starting to get there. It's starting to come together. This was at that point when I was experimenting and I thought, something's happening here.
Something's happening. Something good is
Something's happening, yep. So I'm going to actually move this over a little bit. And I'm going to turn that off for the moment. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another layer. Now let's go and get the brush that we created. So remember our particle brush. There it is. I am actually going to put that same layer style on this layer that I just created. And just to make it real quick, just Option or Alt, click on the FX icon of that layer and just drag it to the target layer and boom, copies and pastes it in one move. So now if I paint with this texture or this particle brush, it will pick up that layer, so that outer glow style, and there we go. So I'm just going to paint around my wireframe, and you can see as I paint, it live updates on the object itself. So if I move my panel over, so I'm just going to add a few scattered elements here on this side. I'm going to turn on the other layer here, and we're going to put a layer mask on it. Now, I'm going to mask away part of this texture with that same brush. So painting with black on this layer, we are now going to, oh, I'm actually on the wrong layer. There we go. That never happens. You ever select the wrong layer?
Never. I've never not once selected the wrong layer.
So
I meant to do that.
So now I'm painting away using the particle element just because I only want a part of this image to reveal that kind of cracked texture. Now, if I wanted to make the cracks a little bit wider to reveal more of the hot areas, here's a cool trick. Command click on the layer to load the object as an active selection. And then inverse the selection. Go to Select and choose Inverse. And then hit Delete a few times. Now, it would help if you're selected on the layer, not the layer mask. I wish Photoshop was smarter to realize what I wanted. It can't, remember what I want. So with the layer selected, I'm hitting delete several times, and you'll see it gets a little bit more revealing of the background there. So if we move over and see, so there we have our object looking really good. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and close this. And let's turn the background on here so we can see. So if I rotate the object here, let's just kind of rotate our view here so we can see that the glow itself looks fine, but here's the problem. It looks flat. It's got the look and everything like that, and the glow, but it, especially with the texture here, you'd expect to see some depth to that, or something. It's like it feels like it's that texture's real.
If this were me, and it is,
Yeah.
I would think to do, I don't know, I would think to do some kind of texture filter. So I'm interested to see where you're going to go with it.
So I need it to be. Yeah, I needed the texture almost to rise in these darker areas here. So we're going to use what's a common thing in 3D is a bump map. But the interesting way we're going to create it is using the texture we just built. So what I have to do, now I can't link now in Photoshop, Where am I? Oh, the front inflation. Okay. What I could do, so I have the front inflation material selected here in the 3D panel. Over in the properties panel, there's the bump property right there. So what I could do is go in this menu here and go ahead and choose the existing object or the existing texture that is the front face, and it will link to that. The problem is, any changes I make to the diffuse texture, which you're looking at now, it will change the bump map. And I need the bump map to be inverted as well. So I'm going to have to create it from scratch, in a sense. So here's what we're going to do. Go to that bump feature and go to the little folder icon and choose New Texture. Make it the same size as the other documents here. Now this is where it gets a little weird because you have several files open. So now this is the file for the bump map. I'm going to move that out of the way for the moment. Go back to the original file and go and open up that illumination texture. Just use that to edit texture. So there's that. So I need this texture to be in the bump map, but just black and white and inverted.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and, where'd my layers panel go? There it is. Okay. So I'm just going to grab these 3 layers because I don't need the colored background. So I'm just going to grab these 3 layers I just need the 2 layers actually. The original texture there. So just these 2 layers, I'm going to shift drag them to the bump map. So they land in exactly the same place as the other file. Now, I need to invert it, of course. I could flatten it and just do an invert, but I may need to edit these layers later, so I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to do an invert adjustment layer at the very top. So now my bump map is pretty much set. So I'm going to close this, save the changes, and we'll close this other one as well. Now, so my light's in place. I'm going to rotate the object here. And I'm going to go back to that property because the default amount of the bump is only 10%. So let's just take the bump map and really increase it. Now, if I move my light around.
Wait. Do that again. Move the light around.
Hmm.
We need to get Jason to animate that because that would make like a cool space station. Just having the light go in and out
That's
of the shapes.
true. Yes, you're right.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to go. So it's the IBL. Okay, there it is. All right. So now I'm not seeing anything on that surface because we've got to apply some reflection. I'm just going to increase the reflection amount and the shine just a little bit.
And do you have a bevel on that or is that a shadow?
That's a bevel.
Okay.
We're going to get to that in just a moment. So I've got my bump. Everything looks good. I'm going to create another IBL. I'm going to over this in environment property. Got the default IBL over here. I'm actually going to create a new one. And I'm just going to make it very simple. Just a black background. Let's just do a simple little oval selection. And I'm just going to put a little gradient inside there, just like that. And close that and save it. So now, as I move this around, now you see it's picking up the reflection on that texture. So now we are actually getting some realistic depth on there. So it's like it's picking up the light on the cooler areas of the metal there. So if I go ahead and move my camera around, you can see how it's giving me a very interesting look there.
You are the master.
So this is at that point where I was like, oh, eureka. So.
Wait, zoom in on it again. Let's see that texture for people on Twitch that can't really see. Yeah.
Well, that's a
that
little.
actually looks like lava. Very
That's,
cool.
Now, I haven't even done a render yet. It's already looking this good, and we're still basically in draft mode. So what I want to do is, of course, apply this to the other materials. So instead of going through this process over again for each one, save some time by going to that property here. And actually, before I do that, let's increase the amount of specular here. Just make it a little bit brighter. And right here, you're going to see the materials menu. We'll just go in here and just save this as a new material. We'll just call it Hot Metal 1. I'm fairly new to naming things. You know, everything was. I had so many untitled things.
Oh, he's showing the behind the scenes.
Let's be real here. So it's like,
That's why the barber always has messy hair, right? You,
Yeah.
don't, you never want to see the person who actually.
I mean, the
does
funny thing is, I'm
stuff.
always teaching. I'm like, name your stuff, but
Right.
I am the worst at doing it myself. So I.
All right.
So.
So is this a good? I think this might be a good moment to pause for a second,
Mm-hmm.
because I just looked at the time, and I'm thinking
Oh, is it?
it might be. What? Say it again.
Is it? Is it giveaway
I think
time?
it might be giveaway time.
Is it giveaway time? All right.
All right, Paul,
Yeah, buddy.
person off camera.
Yeah,
Are we potentially ready to do a giveaway?
I think
He's
so. Let's
okay.
get
We're getting
everybody
set
to
up to do a giveaway.
Tell their friends or not tell their friends.
No,
but-
remember they have to be on for a certain amount of time. So even if you told your friends, they can't just pop on and win. They had to have been here. So we're about to reward the first set of people that have been here for a while. It's time to do a random giveaway, and I think we should give away a year of the full Creative Cloud.
What?
That's right.
I like it.
Unless you guys don't want to do it, we can just skip this one and just keep going. No, they're saying do it. All right, we're waiting on
it.
Paul. Paul's getting everything set up to do it.
How can they do this cool 3D stuff if they don't have the cloud?
All right, so tell us what's next while we're waiting for Paul.
Okay, so I went ahead and
And
applied
Paul will tell me when he'll tap me on the shoulder when he's ready, and then we'll do the giveaway.
it. All right, actually, I'm going to undo what I just did here so you can see. So we saved that material with all those properties on it. Now I want to apply it to the rest of those surfaces. So I'm going to select that bevel material right here, and you just simply go into that menu and click on it, and it will
right.
apply it to that. And it'll do the same thing to the extrusion. I could select these all at once and do it, but I just wanted to get you. Now, here's where the interesting part comes.
Hold that thought.
All
We're
right.
ready. Okay.
And
Here's
hold-
where the interesting part comes.
We'll be back.
right when we go to commercial break, and the commercial break is to do a giveaway,
All right,
just like TV.
there you go.
All right, Paul, you ready? So the way this works, we have software that will just pick a random one of you here in the chat at twitch.tv/Adobe. So if you're watching the replay of the first day or the video on demand and you're thinking, how do I get in on that? You've still got the rest of the day today, tomorrow, and Thursday to get in on these giveaways and to watch cool stuff like Corey and Sophie and Synapse and Jason and Paul and me just sitting here next to Corey. So with that said, we're going to do a giveaway. And Paul, is there anything I need to do other than you just pick the winner, or the software picks the winner?
Nothing you need to do.
All right. So on the count of three, Paul, 1, 2, 3, pick our winner.
It's going through, checking.
Checking.
Looking. See you cross
Looking.
their fingers.
You need a game
I
show
see
sound
a,
effect.
I see a spinny wheel.
Doing its thing.
I see it spinning. It's still spinning, Paul. You did say you were ready.
I did say I was ready.
Oh,
All right,
I got a
we have
winner,
it.
and
We
it
do.
is
We'll give you that display.
He's gonna display it.
name. Make it nice
starts
and
with an
easy.
L, and there it is. That's our winner. What is it?
Lanalick?
Lanalick, if you're in the
And-
chat,
Say something.
chime in, say something, because you just won a year of Adobe Creative Cloud, which includes Photoshop and Photoshop's 3D feature that you're watching right now. In addition to Illustrator,
We need to
InDesign,
hear from you.
After Effects, Premiere, CC,
All
or
of it.
Animate
Chime
CC,
in.
and Lightroom, and services, and all kinds of cool stuff.
We need to hear from you.
Lilac, what is it? Lanalick
Lanalick
has confirmed.
Yes?
They're here. All right.
Hooray! Confetti!
Yay!
Music! There's music. Dancing.
Ba,
work
ba,
it.
ba.
All
Work
right. I
it.
can't hear the music, but I'm dancing to it.
We need the
I can't
Price is
hear it.
Right
I
winner
can't hear
music
it.
or something
I
like
can't
that.
hear it, but I'm dancing to it. It's music.
Yeah.
It's music. It's music.
Congratulations.
I'm hearing it in my mind. Okay.
All right.
So with that
Fade it
said,
out.
fading that out, and we're going to continue with Corey. Good job, Paul, on the software and the graphics and the confetti. Paul
Oh,
did
you actually
that.
had forget. I thought he was joking.
Confetti.
Oh, well.
No, yeah, confetti, man.
That was really confetti.
We're first class here.
Party.
We do a party right.
Where's the cake? All right.
All right.
All right. We're back?
We're back.
We're back. All right.
Okay.
So here is the interesting part of extruded elements in Photoshop. When you apply a texture, you tend to get this. and it's obviously stretched and squashed on the object here. So we've got to obviously, fix it. And here's how you do it. I'm going to go to that extrusion material, and we're going to go to that illumination property. Now, here's where you need to select Edit UV Properties right here. And open up that. So this panel allows you to modify the texture on the surface of that 3D object. You can modify the scale, the tiling, and the offset here. Now, there's several ways you can do it, of course. You can input a number, or you can use the sliders. You have scrubby sliders and the main sliders here. And here's the way I always tell people. Use the scrubby sliders when you hover over the name here, when you want to make small adjustments, very subtle, quick ones. Use the big sliders when you want to make big adjustments. Here, if I adjust the scale here of the object,
That's cool.
and if I move that around, you can see it's starting to adjust the scaling. But notice the bump map isn't changing. That we're going to have to fix as well. So if I'm adjusting this, there we go. There we go. So that's looking like it should. So why it doesn't, wrap it like it should, I don't know. Oh, you don't need it.
Dude, that's why I have you here.
I know. Right?
You're the 3D guy.
So no, so just to show you, if you move the offset, and the cool thing is that these are live changes. You can actually see them happen as you do them. So I'm just moving these sliders around, and you can reposition certain elements like that. Tiling, you can, if you really want to make it really crazy, but I'm actually going to increase this quite a bit. There we
I
go.
like that.
And all right, so there we go.
All right, someone says the music's still on. Can we turn the music down?
So I'm going to click OK there. And we need to adjust the bump map settings, or the UV properties for the bump map. So I'm going to go to the Edit UV Properties. Now, the cool thing is, you see there's this checkbox for Apply to Matching Textures, which means you can just repeat the settings you did on another one. But the fact that we have created an entirely separate bump map, I can't do that this time. So I just took a little screen capture of my settings in that last panel, and I'm just going to go ahead and just input those same ones. And theoretically, if the math is right, the bump map should line up with my texture perfectly. Now, who wants to wager that it will or will not? Anyone? Nothing? All right. 5448 on that one. Click OK and aha! Looks right. Looks close. All right. But now I want to make it a little darker. Now here's the cool thing about this, is that once you have applied all this, you can go back into those texture documents and modify your existing texture. So if I go back to that front inflation material and choose Edit Texture, no, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, the Illumination Edit Texture, there we go. And I'm just going to use my brush once again. Oop. Not paint with white. There we go. So as I'm doing this, you can see that some of the areas are getting more dense, but if I do a save...
So you're just masking?
Yes, okay. I'm essentially masking the light, but the added effect is that the masking is also the kind of ash. It's
because
doubling
of the brush.
Because of the brush, yes, exactly. And I'm just building up the density here, and that's just going to get thicker and thicker. You see, if you want to hide more of it, you can most certainly do that. Now let's go ahead and close that.
Now, is that still at 100% opacity of the brushing, or you lowered the opacity as well?
No, it's the same settings.
Are you using pressure sensitivity?
The same pressure sensitivity I had on earlier.
Okay.
So. But notice how you can vary the thickness of the light coming through. So the base of the yellow light is what's shining. You're just basically adding elements and textures on top of it to hide certain elements. And the fact that you're getting that bump mat texture on there makes it all the more better. Now, I'll go ahead and show you the final one I did, just because. So in order to see the glow from it, you need to have it sitting on a surface, obviously. Mm-hmm. So what I did in my original is, you can see this one here. This is a little bit more involved here. But I've got this one sitting on a perforated texture here. So if I move the light, you can see the lighting is how it's going. And that's a custom perforated texture there. And you can see that the same effect is happening here with the lighting on the object or anything like that. And not only that, you'll notice I've got a little depth of field here. This is something I really think is really cool about 3D is that you can add a fake depth of field because if you have the camera selected, and in the properties panel here, you can change your field of view and get a much wider angle lens and such like that, but you also have depth of field. So by entering the depth at 2, you apply a little bit of a depth of field blur to the object. Now, in order to establish your focal point, you just simply hold the Option key down and click wherever you want the focus to be on the object. So if I wanted
Very cool.
if I wanted the back area to be more in focus, then I just Option click on that. If I want this area to be up here more in focus, just do it like that. Now, when I do a render, I'm just going to press Shift Option Command R. That's going to start doing a render. And here's where you'll start to see any shadows or reflections or even the glow. So notice how the hot glow of the object is now shining on the surface there and just kind of glowing through there. So it just really gives off light. So this is just another cool thing about 3D, and I'm really having a lot of fun with the illuminated objects. I'm just because once you have a breakthrough like this,
Yeah.
you start thinking, well, what else can I do?
What else
with
can
that?
I do?
Yeah.
I know.
So I've been playing with a lot of different stuff, and I've got some new things coming up. But once you break that barrier, then the possibilities open up.
Has the focal or the being able to set your depth of field, has that always been there?
I think that's been in the past few versions.
Okay.
It's
All right.
been there for
You're the first one I've seen that use that.
the past few versions. Actually,
Or
it was something I
noticed it.
discovered by accident. I forgot who I'd asked somebody here at Adobe. I think I was talking to Zarana or something like that. But I was playing with it and it was like I was getting depth of field, but I couldn't figure out the focal point.
How to
part.
control it. Right.
Yeah. So and then I was playing with modifiers, and when you do that, I'm just going to cancel the render. But when you do that Option key, you see a little target shows up. I'm like, oh, what's that? And then I clicked it. I'm like, oh,
Ooh, what's that?
yeah. So that's
How many
really-
times a day do you say, "Oh, what's that"?
Yeah. Oh, I don't even. It's that's my frame of mind going into it. It's just like, oh, what does this do? Oh, that's it. And you don't always discover the cool thing. I make it sound like you go in there and just play with one panel and you're going to see something cool. There's a lot of really boring stuff. I'll put it there and play with it. I have abandoned probably more ideas and experiments than I've had success with.
Well, but that's
Yeah.
normal with any
exactly.
creative
Yeah,
process.
You've got to go through that trial and error in order to find that sort of thing. And this is an example of that. Is like I said, once you figure it out and know that how it works, then you're like, well, I could do it with this. This is why I say, and I actually did some text, and I did this very same effect to text and everything like that. So there's just a lot of really different cool things you can definitely do with it.
The way I like to say it, you're either creating or you're learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're making mistakes, which means you're learning. You're learning what worked, what didn't work, what you liked, what you didn't like, and then you're creating other stuff. Happy accidents, absolutely, Drawing.
Happy acts, indeed. Bob Ross fans out there. So anyway, so that's molten text or forged steel or whatever like that. So I had a lot of fun with that. So
And you said you were going to show a final? Or I think you showed it to start.
that one was where is my? So now I gotta see if I can find my text one. Yeah,
There.
okay, there's.
Cool.
Yeah, this was something I was starting to. Do you love it when you see a file that says recovered in the title?
Yeah,
That means that
that's
Photoshop crashed when I was creating it, and that happens a lot. I'm definitely pushing the limit sometimes here, but if I grab this object now, and you can see how the steel effect
Wow.
really has that kind of cool hot glow on it. And then I just
love
added the
that.
texture in the background.
And because of the lighting, when you tilt it down, we see the shadow reflected on the back.
Yep, there you go.
Cool.
So it's
Now,
just
did you start out with just the extruded object?
yep, just regular text layer. You just extrude it like
Extrude
another
it,
object,
and then you started adding
and
all
just
the
doing the same effect to it as
textures and
well.
effects.
So, one thing I did discover is that when you save the material like I did as a preset, it doesn't always work on new objects.
Gotcha.
It tends to only work on that one object you created. So you create your initial texture and then define it, and then use that to apply it to the various surfaces of that same 3D object. But trying it on a different object altogether, most of the time didn't work for me.
Now,
So.
I saw you do a couple things, and I want to point them out for our audience. Let's see if I can find it here.
Like somebody writes, Photoshop never crashes. Yeah, I'd like to believe that too. It just
right.
gets tired sometimes.
Sometimes. All right, so you do a couple things. Because I'm always teaching people beginner stuff and how to start. So we can switch to me for a second, Jace. It should be that one. All right. So I just want to point out a couple of things that Corey went through naturally because he's doing this every day, all day long. But just showing you how easy it is to get started in 3D. And he's a 3D expert. I just play. But if you just wanted to start, if you missed the beginning of this, I'm just going to show you 3 things. Number 1 is that when you go to your workspace choices, there is a 3D workspace already set up for you. When you switch to that workspace, it'll give you all the panels that you're going to need. The second one that I saw him kind of gloss over, he didn't talk about it, but I like it because it's one of the newest things in Photoshop, and that's the glyphs panel. Because the glyphs panel wasn't in Photoshop until recently in CC. So with the glyphs panel, I can go through a font like, and I never think to do this, but like Zaf Dingbats, or a font with a lot of symbols in it. And then when you click your text tool and you just grab one of the symbols, like I was playing with this one earlier, so that's just type technically on a character, just like he did the word steel. That's just a handwritten or a pencil in a hand. So now all you do is, there's a third thing. When you go over to this 3D panel, there is something called 3D extrusion chosen by default. And when you click create, that'll take you into the mode of 3D. It'll take you into the tool that you can go ahead and start turning this around and playing with it. And you can control the extrusions. So for example, for me, that starts out a little thick. So if I go back to my scene here, I always lose this, Corey. This is where I call Corey. I literally call Corey at this point. I want to drop the exclusion down.
So select the object.
Extrusion.
There. Yeah.
This one?
No, just below the light. Yeah, right there.
That one. Okay.
There you go.
And that'll give you this extrusion depth slider. And I would have found it if I would have just kept clicking, but he's right here. So that'll give you this extrusion slider.
Anybody got time for that?
And you can just pull it down and make the object not as thick. So, and another, I'll give you one more fourth tip that we don't think about as often, and Paul has like been doing this a lot, or started out doing this a lot, is that the objects you make in 3D in Photoshop can actually be turned into physical 3D printed objects. And you're thinking, well, Terry, I don't have a 3D printer. Neither do I. But you can actually go to 3D print right here in Photoshop and send it off to a service. And they will make your object into a 3D piece in the material of your choice, even up to solid 14 karat gold and silver, or plastic, or metal, or whatever you want, and that becomes a physical object that they 3D print and send back to you. Of course, plastic's cheaper than gold, and size matters. So the smaller the object, the cheaper it'll be. The bigger the object, the more it'll cost. But you can actually 3D print your object, even if you don't have a 3D printer.
You know my biggest thing about 3D printing? I printed, and actually had a 3D printer in the office for a little while, and was doing a lot of stuff straight from Photoshop.
Keep talking. I'm going to go grab a 3D object that I printed.
And I will say this, it's extraordinarily tedious. The printing process. Setting it up is great and everything like that, but the actual printing process, so I would, if I were you, I'd just send it to a service. Don't buy a 3D printer.
Yeah, don't buy a 3D printer.
But yeah, you'll take a lot of the frustration out of that. I mean, they're cool to watch for a few minutes. But I mean, like to give you an example. All right, so he's got an object here. Look,
right. So I just took my logo and extrude, print. I didn't do anything else to it. That was it. Yeah. And turned it into I have a brass one as well. And I was going to make a joke, but I have a brass one. And 3D object, print it from Photoshop using, I think I use Shapeways, which is one of the providers in the print menu. And I just wanted to play with it. So I have a bigger, heavier one that's a paperweight. And a 3D object.
I did I created a Thor's hammer.
Oh yeah.
In Photoshop.
See, he's creative.
And I printed it, and I'm not kidding you. It was about this size, maybe just a little bit bigger, maybe that long or something like that. It took 4.5 hours to print it.
Wow.
And that was at a mid-quality setting.
See, I click print and send.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying once
and it shows
send it to
up
a service,
in a box.
You're just like, all right, I'll just wait for it.
Right.
But yeah, waiting for it, watching it print is literally like watching paint dry.
Well, that's like print and go home and then come back the next morning.
Well, that's what I started to do.
I
got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to just finish the day up, finish the design, and then send it to print and just let it print overnight. And one cool thing we did is we did set up a GoPro on it.
Yep.
And did a time lapse of the 3D.
Of
That's
it.
really cool. When you time lapse it and see it, it's like if it only printed that fast for real, I mean,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. But
Time lapse, fast forward,
Yeah.
done. All right, but 3D. Okay, you can switch back to core.
yeah. So yeah, 3D printing's a lot of fun, and Photoshop's incredibly stable. And
All right, here's a question.
So-
Can you import into Photoshop other 3D files like STL and OBJ? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll show you.
Oh, wait. I think I have one too. Hold on.
This was a project, again, that's on my site. Let me find it. There is a... So the thing about 3D... Let me find the
I have a
actual...
newer one that was done at Adam.
There it is. All right. So this image... The thing about 3D, you can actually find a lot of free 3D models that you can download. They're not always stable, so they might have problems. Like one of them is one I use is called 3D Archive or archive3d.net, and this image was actually created with 3D plane models, and was able to put these in position, the exact position I wanted them to be. That's the cool thing about it is that you can import these objects and position them exactly the way you want. You don't have to be stuck with the way the angle a stock image was shot at. You can actually bring your 3D objects in here and move them around. And I'll just show you real quick the original. So this is the plane in that foreground area. This is what it started as. It's a very simple 3D model, and was able to put it together and bring it into Photoshop. So it's almost like looking at it as another form of bringing in stock images. You know, you're still ultimately going to finish with a 2D composite, but you have the power of positioning these objects exactly where we wanted to be. So once I had this in position, you'll notice I rasterized the 3D layer, of course, and then ripped the plane apart, and then added all the fire and other elements to this to put that together. So yes, you can import objects, and you can actually do a lot of really cool things with them, with the lighting and compositing. And that's another thing I like about it too, is that you're in Photoshop. You have all the great things about Photoshop, and 3D is in the house playing with it as well. So you're not jumping around a whole
Right.
bunch of different applications. You can do all this in the same space. You know, and that really makes it a lot of fun. So again, yeah, this is one of those things where I'm like, I just have to do that. Try it real quick. So.
And you turned me on to another site, as a matter of fact, to get 3D objects. You didn't do it on purpose, but you captioned it in one of the social media posts you did. It was back when the Star Wars Force Awakens came out, and you created your poster with the Han Solo
With the gun, yeah.
pistol, and I was like, where'd he get the gun from? And you turned me on to Pixel Squid.
Yes.
So you might want to just show that site and
So
talk
yeah,
about
I've
it.
become a really huge fan of this. So Pixel Squid is an offshoot of Turbo Squid. You know, it's basically a paid stock photography or stock 3D object site. But this Pixel Squid is actually meant just for Photoshop. So if you go to pixelsquid.com, you go in here and let's just look at explore their content. Now, first and foremost, the coolest thing about all this, it's free. They're all free right now. So it's you can download these. I think you can download them.
And they keep adding libraries.
They keep adding into it. In fact, every week I'm going in here and I just go to look at all content. Ooh, they added Iron Man. Oh, see, now I just...
Here comes the new poster.
Well, I guess what I know I'm going to do later today or tomorrow. Look at it. He's in different poses, too. Oh, come on. Okay, I'm doing a Marvel poster tomorrow.
All right, Marvel
stay
it
tuned.
is.
I'm doing
Stay
a Marvel
tuned.
thing tomorrow. Okay. But anyway, that's funny. I love it. Anyway, so go to the main menu and just go to Newest, and you'll see all these cool features. Like there's Captain America's shield. But they've got so many different things. They've got objects and people and characters. And, you know,
And this site's like $500 a month or $200 a month.
it's absolutely free.
Free.
Absolutely
free.
And I've asked them, actually talked to some of them. It's like, when are you going to start charging? It's like, oh, we don't know. I'm like, all right, well,
And-
until then, I'm going to go and use...
Right. The best part is once you create your account, you can download the Photoshop CC plugin and grab the objects right inside Photoshop
Exactly.
and start using them.
Now, it doesn't use... Now, here's the thing to know. It doesn't use Photoshop 3D. What
Right.
it does, in fact, I'll just go ahead and show it in just a minute, but their plugin, you can actually maneuver the object around in that space. But then, once you have it in a position you want, then you render it.
How do you know which models are Turbo Squid are compatible with Photoshop?
on Turbo Squid, it usually will say it. It'll
Okay.
have like
It'll tell you.
have how to formats on there if you can do it. But all the Pixel Squid ones are specifically built for Photoshop. So, like here's I just did the search for Star Wars. Look at all the Star Wars objects they've got in there.
Yeah. And that was one of their first collections. Like when they
Mm-hmm.
first started, when I noticed them, they had like 3 collections, and the movie had just come out, and Star Wars was one of their first ones.
Yeah.
And now they've got ton. They've got Game of Thrones. They've got art. They've got household items. They've got a ton of stuff. So I love Pixel Squid when I have time to play in 3D.
So this is what you were mentioning earlier.
Right.
So this is Han Solo's gun that you got. So I'll just show you here on the website, but it also works in the plugin as well. I'll show that later. But you can actually move this object around. So I'm just clicking on it and moving it around in 3-dimensional space. And once you get it in a position you like, oh look, there's a Star Trek
Star
phaser.
Trek Phaser, yeah, that's new. I
That's
didn't
fairly
see
new.
that.
I didn't see that one before. Let's click on that one here. Ah.
Classic Captain Kirk style.
Oh wait. It jumped the gun there. All right. So
That was fast.
so yeah, you can move it around in the space right here, and you can just go over here. Now, if you have the plugin in your Photoshop, you just simply click the button here, Add to Photoshop. I'm just going to go ahead and download it as a PSD real quick, just so I can show you.
And I've learned sometimes you want the PSD because it'll have layers and selections already made that you want to mask and turn off
Yeah.
to make your compositing easier.
So yeah, like see the shadow that's being
Right.
cast on it? Sometimes
So
you don't
sometimes
want
you
that
don't want
shadow.
that shadow.
And so it's going to go and unzip it. So what it does is, if I open up this document, so there it is in the position that I left it when I went to download it. But notice the layers panel; it's all broken down into the individual layers. So I can actually turn off the shadow layer entirely, but I can't move it
Can't
around
turn it,
anymore.
right.
So
Yeah.
this I'm stuck with that angle. So this is why you wanted to use the plugin to be able to move it around in Photoshop.
But you can use the plugin and the PSD together. So what you do is use the plugin, get it in the position you want, and then say make a PSD from that. And then it'll give you the PSD in that position with all the layers, so you can turn them on, turn them off, do whatever you want. And all the selections already made. So if you just wanted to grab a piece of it, just bring over a piece.
Yep. I'll show you a couple examples of things I've done with some Pixel Squid objects. Where is my ship at sea?
All right, while you're looking for that, Jay, switch to me real quick. So this was actually taken of me at the Atom conference in San Jose. And there was a good friend of ours, Nikolai, who has a 3D camera capture device solution. And I was just standing still. He walked completely all the way around me and sent me the file. And here I am in 3D. So I'm not going to do anything with that, but I think it's just cool that that was captured while I was just standing there in 3D.
That's awesome.
All right, did you find it?
Yes.
All right,
actually
so
found-
switch back to
So I'm going to show you real quick. I'll show you the object first, And oftentimes, and I do this with Adobe Stock too, I'll go in and with no real idea in mind, usually you'll go look for a stock image because you have a project in mind or something like that. Sometimes I'll just go in and just look around and maybe an image will catch me.
like the Marvel thing.
Yeah, like that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I got to do something with that. So, but this actually is still on the home page here of the Pixel Squid. So this ship right here, I believe it's a Mayflower. That's what they call it. I'm like, oh, I got to try and do something cool with that. So I downloaded it and was able to actually, with a few other Adobe stock images, was able to create this realistic scene here using a few different ocean water scenes and in a sky scene, but then I was able to composite that ship in there, but use different layer tricks and lighting to really make it look like it's part of that scene there. So you can see how these Pixel Squid objects can be integrated into the various scenes. Another one of my favorite ones isn't just objects, but so I'll just search broken glass, and you got cool things like this.
All right, so how would you use that?
I'm going to show you.
I think he's going to show us.
So when I saw this, let it load the 3D here. So you can move us around. You can look at this broken glass from many different angles. So I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to try and do something with that. Have something busting through it or something like that. So after playing around with it, I was able to put together this.
Wow.
So this actually, again, is a Adobe stock image, but I took that broken glass, put it at that angle, and then actually made it colored glass by duplicating the object and creating several instances of the layers.
And you did the smart thing. This, by the way, like I said, Corey's an expert at compositing, so he knows what to look for in the image to make it look even more realistic. And the smart thing that he did, I noticed right off the bat, is he put the stock image in the reflection in the glass. Because if that were glass, something would be reflecting on it in that scene. So, awesome job.
So yeah, it really came together good, and just it was getting because I didn't want it to be just clear glass. So getting it into a color, that was the tricky part. So
And making it still look like glass.
and it's making it still look like glass. So actually, there's a few different layers. In fact, I'll show you real quick because this is the layered file. So kind of give you an idea what's going on here. So that's the background there. So that's just the base color layer, and it's just flat and boring. Doesn't have any real dimension to it. What I did was took the original glass object, inverted the values
Okay.
for the edge detail and everything like that, and
Right.
then
So instead of the edges being dark, they're now light.
they're now
and
light.
vice
And now I'm
versa.
blending it using a linear light blend mode. So combine that with the base color layer, and you've got really sharp colored glass. Really cool. And then there's a reflected object, and the ball with the motion, and then I basically made a layer mask of the broken glass.
Okay.
Applied that to the subject, and then just painted away areas where I wanted to see my guy kind of, different areas in front and behind the
Now,
glasses.
do you ever use an image map on the subject to like wrap the objects around the subject's contours?
Sometimes,
Okay.
not in this case, but
Yeah, not in this case you didn't need it, but
and then I
curious.
added a little bit of a particle element just so there's like debris, as the ball kind of sailed through the broken glass there.
and is that just a brush or was that a?
It was actually an image. And can I just say, I mean, I love that Adobe Stock has come into the fold here, but I love more that it's integrated into your libraries panel, and you can access them.
Right.
You can actually search and purchase and manage your stock images right within the libraries panel inside Photoshop.
No going back to the website, downloading
Exactly.
the high res, bringing it back in, applying all the effects over again.
Yes.
Just use the preview. If you like the preview, then license it when you're ready to go.
Exactly. So, but actually, this is that very particle effect. So it was originally red on a black background.
So that's from Adobe Stock. Then.
That's from Adobe Stock, yeah. So, and that's another thing I talk about when people.
See, here I am thinking you created that from scratch.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You
sometimes
could.
I do.
Yeah, I know,
Sometimes
but that was
I do.
faster.
But and that's actually the funny thing is, I didn't find this looking for the particle effect. I stumbled on it when I was looking for a particle effect for something else, and I thought that looks kind of cool.
I'm
I might
gonna use that
for some-
someday, yeah.
So I went ahead and grabbed it.
And even if you're not, let's say you think you might use it someday, you still just download the preview. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And then if you do decide to use it someday, that's when you license it.
Yeah.
So you can have a whole library of preview images that you just may use someday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, if you see in my library there, so all the check marks are, of course, images that I've licensed, but all the unchecked ones are still comp images. Oh, that's a vector one. Let's open up a. Wait, no, that's 4S. So it's a comp.
So that
you-
one you haven't licensed yet.
So I haven't licensed this one yet, but it's a good size to experiment with and try it and make sure it's going to work before I actually go off and purchase it. It's got the watermark on it, but I haven't. It's not really an issue when you're experimenting. You want to make sure an image is well. You don't want to. How many of us have bought stock images and it ultimately didn't work in our project?
Right.
Yeah. So you really want
Or-
to try to avoid that.
Or
Obviously.
you want to cover yourself, so you buy 2 or 3, even though you really only need the one and you don't know which one, so you do the previews first.
But the and another cool thing about this is when you're looking for a texture or a particle element like this, never worry about the color because you can obviously see in my final version it's blue and everything like that. Because you're in Photoshop, you can change the colors. You can do whatever you want with everything like that. So be looking for the texture element itself, and then you can just put together stuff like moving it around. So, but that is Pixel Squid, and I'm going to definitely do an Iron Man thing tomorrow. So stay tuned for that one. All right. How are we on time? We good? Am I on to the next thing? Anyone have questions? Ooh, there's a fire. There's a big, long legal question there.
I'm answering that one right
Oh,
now.
you are? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Question. Okay, fine. On to the next thing. So we're not quite another giveaway time yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I don't want to do. Don't want to do 3D. More 3D. Or something else.
Try do something else. We love the 3D stuff, but
Okay.
just do a regular composite or poster.
Okay.
I think you might even have one or two.
Actually, I'm gonna do this one. It's got a little piece of 3D in it, but the rest of it's really, really fun. Okay. Do kind of a sci-fi.
Someone's asking, can you import a real 3D object?
Like literally,
Like
a real 3D object?
literally, as in that
As in,
format?
can we bring this very object
Right.
into Photoshop? No, no.
Once it's scanned, once it's scanned and it's saved in a 3D format, then yes, you can bring it in.
Yeah, I mean like this actual physical object.
No, that's what I meant. No, yeah, without scanning it.
So, I mean,
Yes, they even have the Death Star in there. You missed my broadcast when Star Wars Force Awakens came out. I did a whole broadcast dedicated to Star Wars, and I used the Death Star.
oh, very nice. Oh, I know it. I got some cool. All right. I have several. I'm just trying to figure out which one I'm going to do. I know which one I'm going to do. So many ideas. All right. I just got to gather my files here. So, Terry, show them your juggling act while I do this.
Oh, wait, I don't have anything to juggle. Hang on. I was still on
It'll be
my
real quick. I got the files right
3D
here.
hand and my 3D selfie.
What? No.
Oh, well, you know what? Someone asked for the poster that you helped me with, so I'll... hang on,
Oh, do you have that?
Let me
handy?
find
Okay,
that.
see if you have that. Yeah. So.
Someone said, can I show it? It's in my creative portfolio, which I have here. And here we go. It's a simple thing. It wasn't too elaborate, but what was interesting, and you can switch to it. Okay. What was interesting in this poster, you remember this, Corey?
Yes,
Yes,
I do.
okay.
Yep.
So what Corey taught me was basically the effects with the numeric font to get it to look that way, and also the lines going through it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing that we automated, if I remember correctly. I don't even remember how we did it, but that was one of
With
the
the
things.
code in the background?
Right.
Really? I do. I can show that real quick. You see that?
You finish what you're doing. Don't get distracted by me.
Okay. Okay.
But this was inspired by something I saw Corey do, and I said, Corey, you got to teach me how to do that.
All right, but first I'm going to show this one trick real quick. Let's do... Actually, I need my library. Okay. This is actually a trick. It's in the book I mentioned earlier that's coming out next month. So we are going to play around with flares, or as I like to call them, JJ flares. Because, you know, JJ
Okay.
Abrams.
Oh, switch. Okay, he's ready. Yeah. All right, we're on you now.
Although he toned down on the lens flares in Star
I know
Wars.
he was actually on an interview I read or watched that he was talking about. Yeah, we kind of went crazy on that.
The
And
first Star Trek, they're
yeah,
just
they
all
were
over the place.
everywhere. Like everything's a lens flare.
And in a
the
lot of
entire
cases,
movie.
it actually looked really cool. But there's a point where you get to it, you're like, all right, you need to.
Well, of course, none of us have overused an effect, right?
No,
We've never like learned something new and used it on every single design from that point on for a year. No, we've never done that.
That's a hard rule.
Right. Drop shadow. Yeah, bevel. No, we've never done any lens flare. No, we've never done those things over and over and over again because they were new.
Lens flare. All right, so just show you my little cool trick with lens flares and HUD graphics. So again, this is one of those times where I'm looking through Adobe stock and I see this cool little kind of graphic HUD element. Had no idea what I wanted to do with it. I just thought it looked really cool. So I wanted to be able to make it a design element that I could use anytime because it's got a lot of abstract aspects to it. I like to use them in different ways. So I wanted to make it a pattern, a layer style pattern.
Okay.
But I also wanted it to have transparency. I just wanted to be able to see the graphic elements. So in my layers, I'm actually going to remove the color, just Shift Command U. And I'm going to use levels to boost the contrast. What I really want to do is force the background mostly to black, and I want to lighten up the graphic element here. And then I need to pull that from that background. And again, I'm going to do like I did a while ago with the luminance-based selection. So we need to get our channels palette here. Let me reset my workspace because I've got panels everywhere. Okay. So in the channels, yet again, we're going to command-click on the RGB thumbnail, and that loads the luminosity or bright areas as an active selection. I'm going to make a new blank layer and then fill it with white. And, so there's my extracted element. So you can see it perfectly on the transparent background. No, I'll just fill that. So there's what we've got extracted there. So a few areas are a little light, so I'm actually going to press Command-J a couple of times, and as you do that, you build the density of an object. So if you've got an extracted element and it's got like subtle transparency around the edges, just make a couple of duplicates, it rebuilds that density up, and then just merge it down back to one layer. So there we have that. So now I'm going to turn off that layer, so I'm just seeing the graphic and the transparent background. And we're just going to Edit and choose Define Pattern. And we'll just call it HUD. HUD Thang. There we go. Never was big on naming them. If I'm going to name them, I'm just going to pick weird names.
Weird names are okay.
So
Long
that
as it's not layer 1, layer 2, untitled 6, final.final.final.24.
I do that still to this day. Yeah. The final version 3.
The very final, version 6.
And then my most common, final dash recovered dot PSD
dot dash mod.
because it had to crash a few times. All right, so here I've got this image of this workout girl here. I'm going to make a new layer because we're going to apply our graphic element now, as I said, as a layer style. And the reason why I like to do that rather than just bringing that, now I could bring that graphic, just drag and drop it over, position everything like that. But what layer styles afford you is the ability to scale that pattern, and you can move it around manually while you're in the layer style. So I'm going to actually give it a base color fill. Let's do a 50% gray. We're not going to see it anyway, but so I'm going to go in there, just double click, and we're going to add the pattern overlay. Locate the pattern in the menu here. It should be the very last thing applied. There it is right there. So now it automatically tiles it. That's another cool thing about it. It automatically tiles it. My scaling is obviously very small from the last time I used it. So notice I can move this slider and scale that graphic up and down. And I can move it around. If I click on the image itself and move the graphic around, I can position it anywhere I want it to be. The cool thing is, this is a layer style. I can go in and change it all the time. I don't have to go, I can drag and drop it between it, and you can still scale it and everything like that. But the problem is the gray background. We don't see our subject in the background. So that's where we're going to go to the blending options. And if anybody out there has ever wondered what the difference between opacity and fill is in the layers panel, here's what it is. The opacity affects the entire layer, everything you see, the layer style, the original pixels, everything like that. Fill only affects the original pixels and leaving the layer styles completely visible. So in this case, when I bring that to 0, I can now see my pattern over my subject. But I don't want it to be so powerful on top of it. So I'm actually going to change the blend mode of the pattern to something like overlay. And I can still move it around, but now I've got this cool graphic overlay on my object. Adds an interesting design element to it. So I'm actually going to position this where it's kind of wrapped around the center area right there.
That was the of approval, by the way.
That was the really, I like that.
Really? I
Now,
like this, yes.
I could stop here because that's actually kind of cool, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to go back to my libraries and locate my flare. Sometimes I will create my flares from scratch, but sometimes I just like to go ahead and just locate them like this one. Because this was again, one I found on Adobe stock, really, really cool. Normally, I will take a flare and make a brush out of it. And I like having that as a brush because when you paint it as a brush, you can apply a layer style to the layer and get the same glow and everything like that. The cool thing is you've got it in your brushes. You never have to go back and reopen the file and do all that. In this case, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to extract the flare. So first thing is I need to remove the color. I'm going to press Shift-Command-U. And then I'm going to levels adjustment here just to force the rest of the background to a solid black. This. And I'm going to get my gradient tool because the edges the ends of the flare kind of go right up to the edge here and get cut off. So I really just want to put a little black fade in there right at the end, so it just does that there. So now I want to go ahead and pull this flare from the background. So I'm just going to command click again on the RGB thumbnail, and we'll make that new layer and fill with white. So it's the same flare, but now we've got it extracted. So now I'm going to make a new document, and I need it to be in a square format. So I'm just going to make it 1000 by 1000, make my background black, and let's bring that flare over there. All right. So I'm going to scale that down. Let's put that right there. Oop. Adjust that a little bit more. There we go. So now I'm going to actually flip this around. Or actually, I'm basically just flipping it upside down, basically. So notice I'm positioning at the bottom of the image here. Now I'm going to go to the filter menu and go to distort and choose polar coordinates. You're going to do rectangular to polar, and you're going to get this cool circular flare happening. Oh, it got cut off. Or it's not keeping it within the image boundaries there. There we go. Okay, there it is. So this flare was going outside the image edge there. So keeping it in the inside the image area and at the bottom, we'll do that polar coordinates again, and then you get this cool circular flare there. So now I'm going to take that and drag it over.
Don't you just wish he could pour his head into yours some kind of way, like? And here's the thing, there's nothing he's showing right now that technically I don't know how to do. I would just never think to do it. And that's what I love about Corey.
In that way. So now I just line that with the circle of the graphic element. Now the cool thing is, with these flares like this, when they're on a transparent layer like this, add an outer glow layer style. And then you can get a really cool glow off the object. So you can make it any color you want.
That one down a bit.
Let's make it a little bit more blue. So.
There you go.
And then I can just make duplicates of the layer and scale it. Maybe I want to put a smaller one right here. Rotate it a little bit. So it's just another way of thinking about using flares. I mean, normally they're just the straight on,
Right.
Maybe put them off to the side and everything like that. And that does have cool
It's
factors.
the center, and it's got this thing going straight across, but I like the way you're
But
curving
yeah,
that
this
one.
is just making it that flare a design element now. You know,
Right.
you used to be able to kind of some little accent or something like that, but now you're actually engaging it as a design element. You can move it around and do all kinds of different things with it. So, so just another cool thing you can do with graphic overlays and everything like that. But again, remember those layer styles. Layer styling, being able to apply it as a layer style, because again, it's saved in Photoshop now. So whenever you say, oh, I just need a quick HUD graphic element,
Right.
just apply the layer style and you get the pattern right there already defined.
And
ready
you
to
can
go.
even add that to your library. So you just drag and drop it whenever you need it.
Precisely. Yeah. So if you wanted to bring it to another application or something like that, totally do it that way. So I'm going to show you the text pattern from his poster. And that was done pretty much the same way as the graphic element here. Is that let's make a text box here in this document.
All right, Corey, what's your website again? I'm going to put it in the chat so people, your book's on it, I'm sure.
I haven't put it on there yet, but
He's going to put it on there. Okay, so what's the
you can
URL?
pre-order the book at Amazon, so it is on there. So just
All right, I'll
search,
find the link.
just
I'll
search
find the
my
link.
name. Okay.
Okay.
And then my site, PhotoshopMasterEffects.com.
All right, I'll find the Amazon link. People are asking, he has a book? Yes, he has a book.
I have 3. Well, 2 are out. 1 is coming out.
Down and Dirty Tricks. Lots of those.
So while he's doing that, so here I'm just setting the 1s and 0s, my little code here on this object. So I'm just pressing 1 and 0 over and over, just in random ways, just to get a line of code here. And I'm just going to highlight it and copy it, and then just paste it. Now let's close in the line spacing here. Don't need that. Quite as big. There we go. So I copy these two lines. I'm just going to keep pasting. And it fills it in. Maybe I'll make a little break there and paste a little bit more, a couple more breaks, and add it like that.
Found it.
And that is pretty much it. So once you have your code element in place, just turn your background layer off, and then again, edit, define pattern. And we'll just code. There we go. And I'll just do it on this graphic element here so you can see. But you're going to apply it the same way you would that graphic element using the pattern overlay. So if I do that again and locate my code, normal. So there is my code element. I can scale it. It's tiling. I can move it around, and that's how you get that cool little overlay. But here's the cool part. Like on this poster, you noticed, I don't know if you remember when you saw this poster, there was the code, but there were several layers of it. Some were really big, some were blurry,
Right.
like that.
Yeah, I remember this.
So you want to have a kind of illusion of depth or something like that. So let's say I wanted to have it set it this way. And again, this is another one of the cool things about layer styles. I'm going to make a duplicate of that layer. Pattern overlay. And then you'll just increase the
Increase
scale.
the size, yeah. That's what I learned that I did not think to do.
Now, we got to do that fill opacity trick. There we go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to drop the layer opacity. So if I increase that scale quite a bit and move it around, now you can see you get these varying levels of the code and stuff like that. If you wanted to have it have a kind of depth to it by putting a blur on it, we'd obviously have to, rasterize the layer if we need it because it's applying. But here's a cool trick. Just contain it in a smart object.
Yep.
And then run the blur. That way you're maintaining all the editability of that layer style, but now
And
you can
keep
put
it in vector, you keep it in high
Exactly.
res, all of the above.
and you just put that little bit of a blur on there, and you're good to go. You can create your depth. In fact, I've got another cool trick using this very technique with rain. Want to see that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
He says real quick because it is.
Actually, no. My snow looks better. I'm going to do the snow. This is really cool. And I have to kind of give a little tip of the hat to Burt Monroy because he kind of showed me the initial part of this technique using to create the element. But the rest of it it's all mine. No. But it's really quite simple. All right, so the thing about creating rain or snow in an image is that oftentimes you get one layer of it, and it's just one size, it's just there. And depending on the type of design you're putting it on, it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But in reality, when you're watching it snow and rain, you have flakes and stuff that are falling, they're close to you, they're further away, they're in the mid-ground.
Right.
So further away is gonna be smaller.
I saw, what's his name, do something with snow. Same thing. He had to do it in multiple.
Glenn do it?
Yeah, Glenn.
Glenn.
All right.
Yeah. Glenn, our friend over in England. But yeah, so you want to create the illusion of that depth by varying the size of it. So first thing is we need to create the actual snow element itself. So I'm actually make the background of this black. I'm going to do a simple noise fill. So just go to filter, noise, add noise. Max out the amount, 400%, Gaussian, monochromatic. Then we're going to do a very, very small blur. Go to blur again, go to Gaussian. And do about a 5 pixel blur in this case. Yeah, looks like that. Okay. Now I'm going to do a levels adjustment and really push these sliders in until I get a distribution that looks like snow. There we go, right there. Boom. So we can go thick or heavy. Or I want to go quite that bad. There we go. So it's got a nice randomness to the size. It actually looks like, little bundles of snow there. So click OK on that. Now, I want to define it as a pattern like I did the other things, but the edges here are an issue. Notice how we've got some of these elements that are right up against the edge. We will probably see that tiling if I were to apply it now. So I need to adjust that. So to be able to do that, you're going to go to the filter and go to other and choose offset. And this is going to basically offset the tiling so you can see exactly.
Here's the difference. He wants to filter and offset. I just went to the edge and erased a few on the edge here and erased a few on the edge here so they wouldn't be cut in half. That's the difference.
So now I'm just going to put the crossing right there in the center and click OK. So now I can see exactly what I need to adjust here. So I'm actually going to use now, depending on the pattern here, there's two different ways I do this. You could do a content-aware fill, just do a selection around the area and do a content-aware fill. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I tend to notice, more times I'm using the patch tool. I just kind of select around the area and just kind of drag it over another area of the image, and it just kind of gives me a nice randomness to it. So it's picking up, so like that. So now I have no edges. It's a perfectly seamless snow pattern in a sense. So now let's go to Edit and Define Pattern like we've been doing. Let's call it Snow. So now it's defined. So let's find a scene to put our snow in. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So now, like before, we just create a new layer, give it a fill. We're going to apply it as a pattern overlay. Find our snow. Now, in this case, I did not extract it from the background. It's just straight put on there. And that's fine. You can actually do it this way because it's actually kind of good because I was going to show you a different way. So apply the pattern, scale it just like I did before. We're going to change the blend mode to screen. And then we're going to take that fill opacity to 0. So now there's our snow in our image.
It's snow globe.
Yeah. Now when I do this, I hear the Charlie Brown Christmas. So again, you can move it around because it's seamless. We adjusted it. Now we can position it where we want it. So I'll go ahead and do that layer like that, and then we'll again make a duplicate layer. Increase the size of the pattern. And then do another one. We'll make it even larger.
And that's what's creating that depth.
And that's what's creating that depth. Absolutely. And I might even go in and go to that base one once again. Scale it down even further. So you got a very small pattern back there. So you got these varying depths of this using the same pattern. You're simply duplicating and making the layer. Now, one more.
And you can even play with the opacity.
Exactly.
And even masking. So if you want some to be kind of less opaque than others and seem further back in the scene.
So while I'm here, I just thought of this. I have another cool trick with this.
Now, there's one thing I wonder if you thought of doing.
Animating it?
No. Oh, that's one. Just do a slight tilt in 3D so the snow is
Oh yeah, you could.
extruded out. Yeah.
You could, but I want to show you the animation.
No, don't do it. I'm just saying. I was
Okay.
wondering had you thought of that.
Actually, no.
Okay.
But now
Now you will have to.
Yeah. Damn you.
Damn you. I know.
All right. What was I doing? Oh, animating. Okay. So yeah. So we created the snow. We've applied our pattern, but you can animate it and get a realistic animation out of it as well. So I'm actually going to go to my timeline.
So many people don't realize that Photoshop has motion. It can create animated GIFs,
Precisely.
movies, right in the timeline in Photoshop just using your layers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That'll be
I've done short info. I mean, I know After Effects enough to be dangerous, but I've actually done some short motion graphics just in Photoshop.
Right, I know, but that'll be on Throwback Thursday where we talk about features just like that that have been there for a while and people just don't know that they're there.
So again, it uses keyframe animation similar to After Effects. So inside my timeline here, if I twirl down, you can see the default properties I can animate, which is position, opacity, and style. Style is what we want here. So with the playhead at the very beginning here, I'm just going to set a keyframe for the style right there, and let's just move our playhead down, not too far, like 3 seconds. And I'm going to go into that layer style again, into the pattern overlay, and just manually just move it down a little bit at an angle. Not too far though. And click OK. And once you do that, it automatically creates a new keyframe because it knows you made a change from its original state.
Right.
So if I go back to the beginning of that playhead, or back to the beginning of the timeline here, and hit the play button, and now it's going to do a render. It's going to be a little choppy at first just because not only that, this image is huge. That's another reason it's getting. Let's make it smaller. There we go. But when you hit play, it gets a little choppy, but that's because it's rendering the frames. You see that green line at the top. But now, once it renders through, you can see there's my snow falling.
So cool.
But, hang on. We're not done yet. Let's bring the scale down a little bit. I wonder. It does get closer. So I just adjusted the scaling in this first keyframe, but I did not do it on the second one. So when I play it through, it starts off small and actually gets bigger.
And it starts to snow like in Michigan.
It's getting really close.
Oh no, I'm having flashbacks.
It's going insanely fast. But no, actually, all right. A lot of things got jolted around because I changed the size after I established keyframes. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to redo those keyframes real quick. So style, and again, we'll just move it to the 3, and let's go a little bit of movement, and maybe we can go a little bit faster than that. So very subtle movement. Now, here's the thing. Me being a movie guy, attention to detail like this would probably be passable just fine. I could publish this as an animated GIF or something like that, and people would buy that. In reality, when snow falls, it is flying through the air. It's changing direction, doing all these weird different things. So if you
and eventually it accumulates.
Yeah. So if you really wanted to do that, in this case, you could by embedding this animated layer in a smart object. And we're going to change it back to screen again. So it's still keeping those animated properties on there. But now we're containing a smart object. So what I'm going to do is create a duplicate file. I need it to be the same size. I'm going to flatten it. Then we're going to add a simple cloud render. Actually make it... Oh, no, that's fine. Okay. Clouds. Then I'm going to do a big blur. So I don't need that much detail in the cloud. So let's just do...
What was your reaction when you first saw the cloud filter before you actually knew what you could do with it?
My first reaction, they don't look like clouds.
Exactly. So people, I think, sometimes run that filter expecting these big, beautiful, puffy clouds, and it's like, that doesn't look like clouds. But
Actually,
we use it for everything else other than clouds.
I have a brush trick I use for realistic clouds. But yeah, I use that clouds filter to render all the time, but never for clouds.
Right, never for clouds, exactly. It's a great filter, just not what it's called.
It's not for what it's called. So I've applied the clouds, run the blur. Now we're just going to save this. Let's call it blur. I'm just going to save it to the desktop as a PSD. There we go. Back over here. Now we're going to apply that texture as a displacement map. So let's go pretty big. Let's go 30 on each one of these. For the horizontal and vertical. When I click OK, it's going to ask me for the file that I want to use. So I'll go and locate that blur file. There we go, open. So now you saw a slight shift on the elements, but notice it's going to be very subtle. But if I hit play, now let me do a little bit more extreme distortion just so we can better see what's going on here. So I did 30, but let's go ahead and do 50. Oh yeah. Locate the file. There we go. Okay, it's really extreme now, as you can see. So now as I play it through, when the animation travels through there, notice how it's wrapping around those various elements. So the darker areas, it seems to push it back, and then lighter areas pull it forward. But when the animation's finished rendering and plays through, you're going to have a more realistic randomization to the snow falling.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it's just a subtle again, the other way I had it before was fine, but it was just straight angular motion. In this case, you're getting that kind of illusion
and because that's now a smart object, you could apply a layer mask to it and kind of fade it out so the snow isn't 100% opaque when it hits the ground.
Right.
Exactly. Okay.
So yeah, again, in Photoshop, animation features that you can do a lot of cool things. With various layers, and some things you just couldn't do in other applications.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right, so this is a perfect time for...
It is.
It is.
Red, we need like instrument or something like that.
I know.
Some kind of sound
We got a
effect.
keyboard over there, but I don't want to mess with it. It is time
For the giveaway.
for a giveaway. One of you lucky folks here at twitch.tv/Adobe is about to win a full year of Creative Cloud. And no, if you won before, you can't win again today. One per stream, I guess is the best way to do it. And it looks like we're getting ready over here. Are we ready? So the way this works, if you're just getting here, if you just got here in the last few seconds, you won't win because you had to have been here for a set number of minutes in order to be qualified for the random software draw that it's going to do. Could use another year. So could I, but not unless, if you won today or any time during the Creativity 360, you only get to win once. All right. Are we ready? And we have a winner. Starts with an R. And we're about to display it. And there it is. Rainy09, Rainy09, are you here? If you're here, sound off in the chat.
Hey,
Rainy09. Let's wait for the delay.
It's funny when I see people type woot woot.
Yeah.
You ever actually heard somebody say it in real life?
I have.
That's a text thing. It's got to be. I never heard anybody go woot woot.
Congrats. Rainy09, are you here? I haven't seen the person pop up yet.
Maybe they're in the kitchen making lunch.
Could be. Did we ever establish if they need to be present to win?
We
By present, you mean?
Present meaning they have to sound off in the chat. Still got to be here? All right, Rainy, last chance. Last chance for someone to call you, text you, tweet
Going
you,
once.
and say something in the chat.
Going once. Going twice.
All right, going once. You don't do anything to enter for the chat other than being here. You have to have been here watching for a set number of minutes. Otherwise, the software will not pull your name. Going twice. Rainy, last chance. Oh, everybody together. Oh, Rainy's not here. Okay, you gotta do it again.
the wrong time to go make a sandwich.
Wrong time to take a break from the stream, Rainy. Sorry. Still don't see you.
What did we say when these are going to happen? Roughly at the top of the hour every.
Yeah, rough. Well, or randomly.
Okay. Yeah, random.
All right.
Somebody got burned by the
We got
randomness.
another one. Everyone's saying, do it again, do it again. And we're doing it again. And we're doing it again. All right. This one starts with a B. Here it comes. $600 bio break. That's about right. Be nice with me. Be nice with me is our new winner. Be nice with me if you're here. Now's the time.
Be nice with me is here.
Be nice with me is here. You see him?
Yay.
Her, him, her. I don't know.
Yep.
All right. Wait, hang on. I thought I saw it.
Yeah, no, I see it. I see it.
Okay. Jason sees it. That's all I need to know. And we will continue on with more of the Master Effects.
So,
Corey Barker.
real quick, I thought
Congratulations, Rainy with me, by the way.
Yes.
Or, I'm sorry, Be Nice with me. I mixed the names together. Be Nice with me. Congratulations on winning a year of Creative Cloud.
I think a year of Creative Cloud qualifies as being nice to him.
It couldn't be nicer.
Couldn't be nicer.
Well, we could, but we aren't going to. All right.
All right. I thought I would show my new book cover real quick.
I think you should.
So, like I said, the book's going to be out in May, but this actually is the cover of the book. So full screen.
Someone said you can't pre-order in UK. That could be the case.
Yeah, I made sure of that. Yeah, I can't have that book over there. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Oh, ouch. That's going to leave a mark.
I'm not sure why. I can look into that, but you should be able to. You definitely can order the e version, if you know. But I'm not sure about it.
There it is.
Yeah. And there it is. All right, so how to create badass effects in Photoshop. Now, the cool thing about this, and one of the things about the book, is that the cover you're looking at, like in my last book, the cover art, I like to have all the cover art in the book. So, I want to have a cool cover, and I want, people are going to say, how did you do the cover?
Well, if you didn't have a cool cover, we probably wouldn't want the book.
Well, first, it's got to have a cool cover, but it's also got to have a tutorial in the book on how to do
the cover.
On the cover,
Exactly.
because I don't want to show people a cool cover without showing them how to do it. The cool thing about this is that, like I said before, the tutorials in the book are very short. They're like 2 or 3 pages, and designed to be roughly 10-ish steps or less. Some of them are a little bit more than that. But
Someone said, I want to see that movie. That's a good one.
So this cover actually is a combination of about 6 or 7 different tutorials in the book combined into one design. And that's the whole point of the book, is that you can use the tutorials individually, but you can also combine them to create an overall finished design. And actually, Jessica Maldonado at Kelby designed the base of this, and I went in and did the 3D and the other finishing effects and like that. So she built the base design on the tutorial from the book.
Awesome.
Like that. So it was all put together like that. So, of course, me being a big movie guy, of course, I needed to have that kind of movie feel about it and everything like that. So,
And of course, the next big question is, and I'm an author, so I know how this works, but I'm going to ask anyway because they want to know when.
It is at the publisher now. I finished it just a few weeks ago. It's at the publisher now. It's due to be out, ready to ship, probably late May right now is what it's looking at right now. So
that's not too far away.
And people, and it was delayed a few times, and I apologize about that. But a lot of people have said, "Well, I pre-ordered it, but when's it coming out? When's it coming out?" It's just like I can say for sure, look for it in late May. It's definitely going to be shipping by then. So I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a really cool one. I hope everybody enjoys it. So be sure to be on the lookout for it. I just love the title too. It's awesome.
I do.
So. All right, and again, go to Amazon. You did post up that.
I did. I put the Amazon link back in. I'll do it one more time.
All right, perfect. So while he's doing that, I'm going to get set up. I think I'm going to do another 3D thing because I'm starting to have withdrawals. So sometimes I just got to do something just to, got to get your fix. This actually is from a project I did just recently. Again, on my site. And did I lose it? Oh, no, there it is. Okay. So it was this element here, which is a base photo, stock image, that I obviously took and ripped apart and created abstract 3D elements. It was inspired by that movie Ex Machina that just came out not too long ago.
I remember when you did this.
Yeah. So I was playing around with just different random 3D objects and really started to have some interesting results.
How'd you like the movie, by the way?
I haven't seen it yet. So
that wasn't a setup question. I knew he hadn't seen it back when he did this.
That was actually,
but I didn't know he hadn't still seen it yet.
I was largely inspired by the poster of the movie. I mean, I've heard the movie's awesome, and I still got to watch it. But I'm not going to do the whole thing. What I want to show you is the neck elements here. A very interesting way I was able to put that together using 3D and Photoshop. So I'm just going to create a new document. Again, we'll make it a square format here. Let's make the background. So let's make it a little bit white for visibility's sake. So, and this is, when you start playing around with 3D and Photoshop, you start doing the obvious things like extruding text and things like that and get used to it. You really start to get an understanding of how those features work. And it allows you to start experimenting and trying different things with it. So what I'm going to do here is actually just use my shape tools. I'm just going to grab the ellipse shape tool here. And I'm just going to draw it as a shape. And it's going to start with a oval shape kind of in the middle. I don't want it to be dead center, so I'm actually going to offset it just a little bit there. And then I'm just going to add more circles around it in random size and shape, but mostly keeping them as ovals. I want to do it as a path, not a shape. There we go. Okay. So one big oval in the center here, and then we will add a handful of other shapes. Kind of like that. Now, it doesn't look like much right off the bat. It's just a few random ovals just kind of scattered around. But I'm going to create a new layer and give it a blank, or I'm sorry, a base 50% gray fill here. Now, if you start playing around with Photoshop 3D, if you haven't used a 3D application before, you're gonna have to shift your thinking quite a bit. Because if you've only ever used Photoshop, you're essentially in a two-dimensional space. You can only go up and down, left or right. You've got to think three-dimensionally when you're working with 3D. It isn't just a matter of going in there and trying it, but you've got to kind of have the forethought of, well, if I extrude it and do this and that, maybe I can do this. So that's kind of how these kind of things come together. So again, I got these random shapes with the gray filled layer. Now I'm going to go to 3D and do new 3D extrusion from selected path. And that gives me this kind of extrusion here. So, not a bad start. First thing I need to do is rotate it so it's kind of up and down on the ground plane and not along the ground plane. And the shadow is my indicator there. So let's put this right about there. And just rotate this around. So see, now those objects are just kind of, they look like columns. And they're just kind of standing on there. So I'm going to increase the amount of extrusion. It's basically I'm going to max it out so I get a nice long extrusion there. And let's turn off that ground plane shadow. There we go. So I move my view up. That's what I've got right there. And let's move our light around. So there's our infinite light on that object. Now, this gets us venturing into a part of 3D that we haven't discussed yet. And this is almost like those things we were talking about earlier, is like features that have all been there for quite a while. Probably didn't know they were there, and that you could do this. So with my main object selected, in the Properties panel up here, you've got these tabs at the top. So you remember I went in here and did the bevel earlier. In this case, I want to go to the second tab, which is that Deform property. And here you can adjust things like the extrusion depth, of course, and you've got Twist and Taper. And you're like, I wonder what those do. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Well, if you don't know what it does, move it back and forth and see what it does. So Twist, actually, the moment you start using it, you start getting some really interesting things happening here.
Now see, and again, that counts as I remember that back when it first came out and completely forgot it was there.
Yeah.
I remember you showing this to me years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just went in there and started playing with it. And so because the shapes are irregular, I had ovals at different angles and everything like that, and that one main shape in the middle is kind of a spine, if you will. So you get this really kind of interesting organic kind of look to it. So I'm just going to kind of put that around there, and if I grab the object and kind of rotate it around, you get this kind of cool illusion thing happening. And you know what else? You can animate that. You can actually animate 3D objects in Photoshop. But that's not what we're after here. We want to actually create this kind of metallic look about it. Now I'm actually going to push this back so we can see pretty much the whole object. So that's remember what we started. So if we look at it from the top, there's our shapes. But by looking at it from this side, we're getting something entirely different. Now, also in that same Deform property where we had the Twist and Taper, just below that you have Bend and Shear. So I'm going to leave the bend checked on. If I go in here and move the horizontal and vertical sliders, now you get a little bit more interesting twisting and different things happening here. So you just kind of get like that. And just really get this cool, again, like I said, like a biological type of element here. They're like veins, man. But in this case, we're creating an android, so we need to have kind of a metal look about it. So actually got this random, it's just an abstract chrome texture I've got here that I'm going to...
Let's see where this is going.
that I want to create or apply on here. Now I'm going to apply it as an image-based light. I need it to reflect. This actual chrome is chrome because it reflects the environment around it. That's what gives you that shine. So the first thing is I'm going to set it up to accept or to reflect that texture. So we are looking at the extrusion of this object. So I'm going to select the layer 1 extrusion material. And over here we're going to set the shine and reflections to the full 100%. Now the default image-based light is appearing there, and that's those white dots there. And if I move the image-based light around, you can see how they interact on the object itself. That's pretty cool, but it doesn't look metal.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to replace that object here in just a moment. But before I do that, we need to change the base color, or the diffuse color of the object. When you want to get mirrored reflections on an object, the base diffuse color needs to be black, solid black. So we're going to go into that object, or into the diffuse property here, and choose Edit Texture. Fill it with black, and it looks red because of my UV overlays is on here. Let's turn that off. So simple black fill on the diffuse texture. Close it, save the changes. Now, over in that 3D panel, the environment property here, over in the properties panel, you're going to see where that IBL is. So now we're just going to click on the menu and choose Replace Texture. I'm going to locate that chrome, click Open, and watch this. Voila. We get cool chrome dancing around the object here. Now, you'll notice that it's showing the lines of the texture. Now, it's a little overbearing. I don't want to have it quite that much. So there's two ways you can deal with this. You could go in the original object and blur it. So you can blur out that detail or anything like that. Or you can go down here to the extrusion material once again, and you're going to see under the shine and reflection, there's this property called roughness. Mm-hmm. This really should be called softness or something like that.
Well, we already got some comments here. So
what?
Fear Video says it looks like DNA. This is just nuts. Looks pretty cool by Drawny. And goodbye for the person that it's late your time in Belgium. So Sergio, have a good night. And let's see here.
Well, hello in Belgium. Good night.
Good night. Yes. Someone's asking what's the configuration of your computer, MacBook Pro, but I'm guessing it's 16 gigs of RAM. And
yeah, this is maxed out. I've got
Core i7.
It's got a half. I want to put a bigger drive in it. It's got a 0.5 terabyte drive, 16 gigs of RAM. This thing is sported out. And it needed to be for this kind of heavy 3D heavy lifting that I'm doing here. So it's really, and even still, if I get really in depth with a 3D project, it can get quirky sometimes. So, so smoothing out those lines again. You can go in the original texture and blur it, but in this case, I'm going to go in and increase that roughness setting here. Now, before I do that, I just want to show you the difference. If I do a render now on this object, so if I just start to do a render, and I have to be selected on the 3D object in order to initiate it. There we go. Now I'm just going to let it do a couple of passes here, but you can see it's giving me that good shine on there, but it also is showing those lines on there. So if I increase the roughness to, let's say, 25, and then start the render again, it's going to basically blur that texture and smooth it out, and now you can see I'm getting much realistic, smoother texturing on there. Now, this looks really cool. And when I was working on the project, I'm thinking, all right, this looks great. It's got that kind of metal look to it, but it needs to have something else. I wanted it to have that look of like those chrome pipes, almost like you see on microphone stands where it's kind of sectional and you can bend it and have that kind of look to it. So it became one of those things where I'm not entirely sure how to do it. So I'm going to play around with some different things and discovered another use for bump maps in this case. So right over here in that same panel, I'm going to go to that bump property and choose New Texture. And let's go ahead and make it pretty small. Let's make it 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Pixels, not inches. So, and right in here, I'm going to, now the thing to think about bump maps, again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, but dark areas tend to dent or push into the object. Lighter areas tend to pull it forward. So what I want to create here is just a selection at the very top, right up here. And I'm going to do this on a new layer, actually. And I'm just going to get the gradient tool. I'm just going to use a very simple black to transparent gradient, linear. start at the very top of the selection and just drag down to the bottom of the selection. This gives me just a simple gradient coming down.
All right, we have some inspiration. So 2 things have happened since you started today. First of all, I believe this one is from, hang on, I need to go back and get your name, but I think it was Lynn. Let me go back and look real quick. Hang on, let me get the name real fast here. Oh, I'm sorry, Legacy of Pi has some inspiration here, and I think Jan's coming up with something too. So let me just switch and show this real fast. Oh, hang on, wrong version. There we go. So birthday card, I believe is what this is, and you can see like kind of the 3D table and the drinks on it. So that's one. And I think Jan posted something as well, or was going to. Oh, yep, it's a Dropbox link. Hang on, I'll need to go download that. And in the meantime, we'll switch back to you.
Oh, we're back? Okay.
Yep, we're back.
So now I've created this gradient element here and put it inside the selection. Now I'm keeping the selection active. I'm just going to initiate a step and repeat here. This is another one of those kind of hidden features in Photoshop, is being able to do that. So I'm going to Option Command T. Oh,
here it is. We got some Star Wars inspiration
that.
from
Very
Pixel
nice.
Squid. Here it is. Good job, Jan.
very nice. They do that just now?
Just now, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You are inspiring
Wow,
people
look at that.
to create with us here at
Yeah.
Creativity 360.
It's awesome. It's great. That was a really good job. Even almost the scales.
I know,
looks about
right?
right. So
Yeah.
very nice. Okay. So again, I'm going to initiate a step and repeat here on this object. So I'm just going to Option Command T. And then I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and drag this object down until it's roughly on the bottom edge of the previous one. Press Enter. Then you're going to do Shift Option Command and then T continuously to go all the way down the document there. So again, remember what I was thinking about, talking about darker areas push back, lighter areas pull forward, and you get a gray, so you're getting kind of a gradation there. When I close this and save the changes, look what we got. Now, I'm going to increase the amount of bump all the way to a max 100%. Because now, when I move that IBL around, it's now interacting with each one of those segments. See that? And now it's giving me that kind of sectional tubing that I was looking for on a particular object. So if I move my view around now, you can see it's got very, almost like tentacle type feel about it. So,
That's creepy in a good way.
but that is ultimately how it came to be the neck area of my Android subject there. So I applied a little bit of colored lighting on it and everything like that too. That's another cool thing about 3D, is not just creating 3D objects with realism, the lighting. I've done actually some interesting photography tricks with lights on photos. No obvious 3D in the image, but it's the lights.
Right.
You're using the lights to create shadows and other elements like that, and that's something I can actually do something like that probably tomorrow. I don't have anything just yet.
We have 3 days.
We have 3 days.
You got 2 more days.
I gotta prep. I gotta do some of them. I can't wait to play with the Iron Man one. Okay, that's. But actually, you know what? How's our time?
You got half hour.
Half hour. I'll just real quick show the head element for that same Android effect, because that was really quick and easy. And again, this this project, like the molten or the forged steel type thing, when I finally figured it out, it ended up being such a simple technique. It's like you spend all this time, you think it's going to be this grand, epic, advanced, complicated thing. Most of the time, it ends up being something extremely simple. It just takes you a while to finally get there and figure it out. So, let me find my file here. Let's. So for the headpiece, I need 2 textures. One is this hex pattern right here, and the other is this tornado image. Now, what I'm doing here has nothing to do with the tornado. I like this stock image because of the range of colors in it. It's got a lot of different tones and very cool colors in it. We're going to make that work for our subject there. So now let's go in back to our original there. So the headpiece is what we're creating. Did you notice what I put on the side of the head here? Catch that? Little THX there.
Yeah, look at that.
When I did the original tutorial, it's just like, if you're old enough, you might remember what that is. All right, so I'm actually going to turn this one off for the moment. Let's just assume we haven't done the headpiece yet, and we're going to do it right now. So we're going to start with a new document. Now, when I'm doing 3D, the way I'd like to design is I have a main file that I build the final design in. And all the support elements or objects or 3D things, I like to build in separate documents because it keeps the speed up, for one. And I like to be able to save all my individual elements. Should I need to go back and replace it or modify it in one way, then I can re-render it and re-import it back into the design. So that's why I always create a new document when I create something in 3D. Not to mention, 3D...
So you got a question here. Is this texture mapping?
Yes.
Okay.
That I'm about to do? Indeed. So, I'm going to create that new document. Let's go ahead and 1500 by 1500 is fine. And once again, I'm going to create a new layer, and we're going to use a primitive shape in this case. So I'm going to go to 3D, to New Mesh from Layer, and you're going to go to Mesh Preset and choose Sphere. It creates a very simple sphere object right on your layer there. Now, again, like before, I do not need the shadow, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that to 0. And let's go and select the sphere material here in the 3D panel, and I'm going to jump in here into the diffuse property, and let's change the color. Go ahead and give it, again, we want to reflect the image that I'm going to apply, so we want the base color to be black. So go ahead and close that and fill it. Now, shine and reflection, we're going to go ahead and boost those up. And once you do that, you immediately see that default IBL in place there. But we're going to go ahead and replace it with our sky image. So while I got it open, I'm just going to go ahead and just copy it. Just do a Command A and then a Command C. Copy it to the clipboard. Back in the environment, and we're just going to choose New Texture. I don't know why sometimes when I go to create, it doesn't remember the clipboard settings. In this case, okay, there it is. So it creates the document, and by default fills it with white. So it obviously has blown out the object, so we don't want that. So let's go back in there and choose Edit Texture. And it's going to paste that image. Now I'm going to do a save. I'm not going to close it yet. I'm going to do a save, and you're going to see the object or the pattern appear on my object. Now if I go use my tool and move that around, you can see how that's reflecting on that surface. The problem is there's a harsh edge right here on this side here. So one way to get around that really quick is just go into the original texture and just rotate it clockwise. And that's it. Just close it, save the changes, and now you get a better, smoother transition because of where it's positioned on there. So now you just move it around and get the best lighting you want. And like before, I don't want it to be mirror reflecting that texture, so we're going to take that roughness again and let's put it around 20. And if we do a quick little render, we'll see what we get here. So again, blurring out that detail and everything like that, and that's giving me that that overall look there. Now, let's go ahead and bring it over to our working file
Now,
here.
was the original stock image cut out like that, or did you cut that? I missed that part. Did you cut the head out? Like slot it like that?
I did cut that out. In fact,
Okay.
I'll show you the before. Now, because I was creating the Android, I needed to find a bald subject.
Right.
And I wanted it to be female, of course. Now, you think that would be really difficult, but it was actually on Adobe stock. Let me find the, there it is. So,
And someone's asking, how big do you start your projects?
it depends. Well, experimental projects I keep pretty small. I usually keep them under 2,000 pixels.
But then do you have to go back and redo them from scratch if you like it?
No, if I see an effect's going to work, then I'll stop and go ahead and start.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So you play at
I play at
2,000
lower
pixels.
res just to make sure things are working, or if it's something I haven't tried before, I want to make sure something's going to work. When I know an effect works and I'm going to building an actual project, then and again, it depends on the project. If it's for on screen or animation, something like that, I'm not doing it quite as big. If it's a print project, then obviously I'm going to do it much higher resolution.
Right.
But when I'm just doing my effects and experimental like that, I usually keep it really small, round screen resolution, if not smaller.
Because then it just keeps everything going.
It keeps
fast.
everything going much smoother, especially with 3D. much larger files, you're going to see it even a fast machine is going to start to get bogged down after a little while. So.
Yep. All right,
But there
so now
is-
I see the original subject.
There is the base photo that I started with, and that's as it was. It came from Adobe stock. I liked it because, of course, the subject's bald, but the lighting was really, really good in this case too. Plus, it's on a very simple, dark background, which makes it very, very easy to extract. And all I did was to get the cutout is just a pen tool, just a little, just a pen
quick
curve around the there on the shape
not
here,
with a mouse.
and knocked out the ear. Not with a mouse.
Not with a
exactly.
mouse.
Would have been very
Hashtag.
frustrating.
We should get that trending. Not with a mouse. Hashtag.
So our object is in our layers. It's behind the subject, which is good, and we actually want that. And I'm going to position this right here. Now, once I did this, and let's go ahead and scale it a little bit, I noticed that I didn't want it to be a perfectly round object. So what I'm going to do is rotate a little bit so that the red arrow here is kind of in line with her head, like that. And then I'm just going to use the scale on that same red arrow and just kind of push it
So
back.
again, because that object's 3D, even though you brought it into a 2D photo, basically, that object's still 3D, and you can still play with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and
So
I'm
you're-
referencing the 2D image to
Right.
position.
So your layer is 3D.
My layer is 3D.
Not the whole photo, not the whole thing.
Precisely. It's a key thing is that it's only your layers, and you can have multiple 3D layers in Photoshop. You can also merge them together to create,
Yeah, and I've done that.
like what I did with the.
You know when I've used it? I showed you the 3D piece I made.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other 3D pieces I made was an actual piece of jewelry. So I had it printed in silver.
Yeah.
And I needed the loop to put the chain through.
Yeah.
And I had to figure it out. I didn't call you for that one. I had to figure it out. So I've got the flat circle, had to turn it, and then join the two layers together to make the loop. And I made it too small. But anyway, I did figure out how to do it.
Nice.
And so that taught me that, it's about each layer, and that, like you said, the layers can be combined if need be.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, when you want to have two objects like cast a shadow on one another or reflect each other, like I did with the molten steel and the texture earlier, had to merge those two together in order to be able to do that. So I'm just basically scaling it on this axis to create more of an oval shape rather than just a perfect sphere to go along with the proportions of the head here. I'm just going to position it right here. And again, because it's still 3D, I can go in here and adjust the position of that lighting on there. So I wanted to have it.
Should you use, someone's asking, Alan Reed, should you use the 72 with most screens now being high quality? It's talking about retina displays and high DPI displays.
72. I haven't seen it be an issue. I don't remember the last time I used 72.
Okay.
If the lowest I'll go is 100.
All right. And you've not had any issues because
I have
you're
not,
also
no.
making it fairly large at 100. It's not tiny at 100. So even on a high DPI display, it's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
okay.
typically I'll do like a 2000 by 2000 pixel
Yeah.
image at 100, pixels per inch.
Okay.
And that's usually my experimental size, if you want
Right.
to call
And
it
so
that.
if you figure it dropped it down for half that for high DPI, it'd still be okay.
Yeah. So
And you can always go bigger.
So again, we're moving around that IBL just to get the lighting position and everything right.
That's freaky right there. You should just animate that.
And that way, whoa. There's a lot going on in this head.
That's
All right.
Corey's brain. I see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, this is your brain. This is your brain on Photoshop. No. All right. So when I got to this point, I was thinking, all right, this looks really cool, but I wanted to have that kind of, that mesh kind of orbiting that head. I didn't want it to be a texture I applied on top of this one. I actually wanted to kind of have that separation. It looks like it's two elements there. So to do that, we're going to go into the 3D panel, and I need to make a duplicate of this 3D shape. So in the Layers panel, we're just going to press Command-J, same keyboard shortcut for duplicating a layer, does the same thing for a 3D layer, makes that new object. Now, we are going to mask that shape. I'm not going to take the IBL out or anything like that. We're actually just going to go ahead and apply this pattern here. But I want to adjust this. This is the hex pattern as it came out of Adobe stock. But I want to adjust it a little bit. I want the lines to be thicker. So, I'm going to press Command-I, and that's going to invert it, obviously. So now the lines are white, and the rest of the image is black. But to make the lines thicker, I'm going to go to the filter menu and go to Other. This is probably another one of those features where you're like, that's what that does? So you go to Other and choose Maximum. And you can increase the thickness of it. And you can maintain the squareness or the roundness of it. You know, we all want to maintain squareness. So, but preserve, in this case, we want to preserve the squareness because it's got sharp edges. But if it was a round object and you were expanding it, then you would obviously choose roundness, but you can actually choose that. And just by dialing it in, you can get a thicker line here. I think I'm going to go at about 9 pixels there or so. And click OK. Perfect. Now, I need to extract. I don't want to bring it in as it is. Yeah, actually, I do. I derailed my train of thought for a second there. But I'm back. Okay. So now, in our 3D object, in our 3D panel, let's open up the Properties panel. We've got to have all these panels ready to go. So we have that duplicate object selected. So in that sphere material, we're going to go to the property, or the opacity property down here. And I'm going to take this pattern. I'm just going to, since I got it open, I'm just going to copy it again. And jump over here, and we'll go to the opacity, new texture. Oh, I did. Okay, never mind. So new texture. Okay, and it, in this case, it opens up the texture automatically because it assumes you want to adjust it or import it. I'm just going to paste that texture in there, and if I do a Command S and save, and this is what happened to that. What did it to me last time. Last time I applied it, it disappeared. And it's doing it again. Let's try it one more time. Close this. There we go. So now that pattern is masking that shape, but the pattern itself is huge. I don't want it to be quite that big on there. So we're going to go back to that same opacity property and choose Edit UV Properties. You remember this earlier when we were doing the molten steel effect. But here I can adjust the scale by using the sliders here. So I'm actually going to bring this in. And it looks like it's rotating around, but it's actually scaling the texture there. So we're actually going to bring both of these settings down and get that kind of mesh look right there. So I'm actually going to make more adjustments to that. Let's go ahead and click OK here. So there is that same object now masked with the mesh texture. Now what I'm going to do is turn on the other one, the original one, and we're going to merge these together. And we're talking about merging 3D objects.
All right, so real quick. Someone said, I would go crazy if I didn't have my 3 monitors. And I know you're here, you're visiting, you're here with just your laptop.
Yeah.
At home or in your office, studio, whatever. How many displays?
I have a dual monitor setup. Yeah.
So size?
My main monitor is 27.
27. Okay.
And then I have a smaller one that I don't use. It's older, but I don't use it much. But mainly I'm using the 27.
27 in this one. Okay.
Yes.
So at least 2 monitors.
Yeah. And in some cases, I'll use the multiple screens for, you know, in the Mac OS, you've got the multiple desktops right here. So.
Yep.
So I'll use that too. So yes, I do use a multiple monitor display. But
Someone, Drawny says, I bet you're never bored.
no. I have other types of insanity that I have to deal with.
Yes. Called adulthood.
So yeah. There's like responsibilities like bills and grocery shopping and things like that you got to do. I just less time.
All right, and do you dream in Photoshop?
Actually, it's weird. I do.
I thought so. I could tell.
The funny thing is, I have a little side note here. All the years I've been using Photoshop, I've been using Photoshop since version 2.0.
Same here.
So pre-layers
Actually,
is when I
2.5.
started using Photoshop. So I got to a point where I'd get an idea, I would actually work on it in Photoshop in my head. And then I would
That explains a lot.
And then I got to a point where I was actually running into whatever pitfalls I might run into. And before I even before I even create a new document in Photoshop, I knew what I was going to be probably running into in some cases. You know, sometimes you don't always know, but you know, like, well, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to create a mask. I'm going to have to do that. And then that's what's running through my head whenever I'm.
And someone said earlier you should donate your brain to science, Photoshop science, when you're.
It's harsh.
Yes.
It's madness in there.
Continue on.
But all right. So we've got the 2 objects. So we've got the mesh object here, and we've got the original object below it. Now, there are still two separate 3D layers. So like I said, I want to merge them together. Now, one of the things I've discovered, when you prepare to merge two 3D objects, here's one of the most critical things you do before that. Go to the File menu and choose Save, or Save As in this case. Because depending on the complexity of the 3D object, I've had it crash when I've got to merge some things, you know. So the autosave feature is fantastic. It's saved me more times than I care to admit. But it's a good idea to still consciously save every now and then before you do a major function here. Now, like normal layers in Photoshop, you can merge two 3D layers just by simply pressing Command E, and it's going to go ahead and merge it down. Now, the difference is Photoshop knows they're 3D layers, and it merges them, yes, into one single 3D layer, but if you look at the 3D panel, there are still two sphere objects you can edit independently here. So I'm going to select my mesh object, and we're going to use the widget to scale it up. And what that gives me is that kind of slightly off orbiting kind of look on the object. Now I'm just actually going to rotate it on this axis a little bit. As you can see where the texture kind of comes to a point. And I'm just going to position that right around the ear there. And let's move around that IBL. And the IBL is reacting, notice how it's reacting on the mesh texture as well as the base object below. You can get very realistic lighting, and that's like I was saying a minute ago. Another cool thing about 3D is that you can get very realistic lighting on your objects and stuff like that. So now let's position our light here, and if I just do a quick render, see what I'm going to get. But that is pretty much how the headpiece came together. So it's two simple primitive shapes, both with different textures applied to them, being lit by that IBL, giving you that kind of cool mechanical.
Very nice. So. All right, we got 11 minutes left.
We get another one?
We got another one.
Knocking it out, I'm telling you.
It's from Jan again. I think Jan is like looking at you with one eye and the other eye is on his computer looking at Pixel Squid, because this guy's just knocking them out of the park.
These are impressive, very nice.
All right, so let's go take a look at Jan. And this is another Corey-inspired Pixel Squid design by Jan Eric, I believe. Jan Eric 75 in the chat.
Very nice.
So, if Corey would be so generous to give me some copies of his books to give away to his fans.
Oh, indeed, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So there you got it from him. He will do a giveaway, or allow us to give him away. When will we be doing photo editing? Can you give some type of schedule? Well, we may not be doing a lot of photo editing with Corey, but I'm normally on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 a.m. Pacific time to 9 Pacific time doing photo editing. And we'll see some on Thursday for the Throwback Thursday. I'll do something.
So like retouching or something?
Yeah,
like that?
think about retouching.
I actually have, and obviously we're out of time today, but I actually have some retouching and makeup tricks.
Oh, well then, why don't we show that tomorrow or Thursday?
Or Thursday. I actually did a class a few years ago on digital makeup in Photoshop, being able to enhance blush, eyes, and even adding eyelashes and stuff like that. So I can show a handful of tricks with that. And
someone's asking, what's THX?
What is THX?
Pearl cream cheese.
Actually, if you're old enough, you remember, but it was one of the earlier projects of George Lucas. It was a movie called THX 1138. And most younger people probably know it as THX Certified Sound. That's where the designation comes from. But it was actually a movie, a quite bad movie, to be honest. But that's where that came from. And I was just kind of thinking of that when I was working on this project, so that's why I threw it on there. But look it up on IMDb.
Didn't also audio vendors license the THX sound for their equipment? Like I have my TiVo, for example, or Bose unit is
THX certified.
THX certified,
yeah.
So that it basically plays the George Lucas approved sound, whatever that is, for the special effects.
Yeah. See, I just had to kind of throw that. It's a little nod to George Lucas. So.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got here?
Sounds cool.
Gonna have to start my own Scottish creative group because you guys are the only ones when I'm on bed. Yes, you have to do one in your time zone, and you can actually even stream on Twitch, and perhaps we'll watch you instead.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm gonna start playing with the Iron Man image.
All right. So we only have like 8 minutes left before we switch over to our next presenters. Now's the time if you want to ask Corey more questions. Tune into or chime into the chat. We're looking at your questions right now. Now's the time to get them in. I saw a question. Will I be on tomorrow? Actually, I'm the host this week, so I'm hosting Corey. Corey's going to be doing the bulk of the work. I may do something like I did earlier today, just kind of backtrack and do a couple simple tips and techniques based on something that Corey inspires me to do, or I think could be fleshed out a little bit for people that are beginners here. But I won't be spending a lot of time on the stream this week. It'll be mostly Corey.
Where does Corey come from? It's a small planet in the gambit flood. No, I'm actually out of Tampa, over here, California, for this week. So again, I want to thank Adobe and Terry for inviting me. I'm really excited about this.
It's been an amazing first day so far.
Really, I've gotten, just doing today, I've gotten more ideas for stuff I'm going to play around with and certainly show over the next couple of days. So if you have questions in the meantime, by all means, go to my social media. My Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all CoreyPS3D, so check me out there.
And I like your spirit. Who's this? This was Theater Geek California, one of our mods. I like that you're right. We do have time for another giveaway.
Oh, indeed.
So, Paul, if you can get us set up, or Jason, whichever one of you is manning the computer-generated random person drum roll, please. We picked one already, but how this works is we've got a random plugin for Twitch that picks a random person here watching, and you had to have been on the stream for a set amount of time. In other words, if you just joined just now, you're not going to win. You got to watch us for a while to actually be eligible for the software to even pick your name. And that winner is Phil Veck. You have just won a year of Creative Cloud membership. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being in our stream.
Corey give his books away too.
Well,
Yeah,
he will. He'll give his books away too, just not right now.
I'll get copies of all 3 books,
Yeah.
and we'll give away copies of each one. Yeah, so.
All right, Phil Beck, is he here? Looking for Phil. Phil? Content aware Phil.
He's here.
Are you here?
Content-
All right, content aware Phil is here. Phil Beck is here. All right, so Phil Beck, congratulations on your 1 year of Creative Cloud. And let's see, we got 5 minutes left for questions. Any tips that you can do in like a minute? Don't stress out if you can't. Don't worry about it. All right, Corey's looking to see if he's got something that takes like a minute, or even just a random tip
What's
on.
a quick tip?
Doesn't have to be something you create. Could just be, hey, did you know this in Photoshop?
Oh, did you know?
All right, yes, Phil
No.
Beck, I see you. Congratulations. I see you in green. All right.
Oh, here's one of those. Here's a quick little tiny thing. You know when you create
No.
it?
Oh, so here's a question. So the person's asking, well, do you have to be active on the chat or just watching? You don't have to be active on the chat. I prefer if you would be active on the chat, but no, it's not a qualification to win. As long as you're here.
Yeah.
All right, you're going to show something real quick.
Oh yeah,
Like
just
we got
real quick.
4
Dealing with
minutes.
layers, this is just something I use all the time, and you've probably seen it before. But you know when you create a new blank layer, it automatically puts it above your active layer.
Right.
So if you wanted to create a new layer and then put it underneath the active layer, you could make the layer and then go up here and drag it down.
Yep.
That takes forever though. Or you could just simply hold down the Command key or Control if you're on Windows, click the new layer icon, it automatically puts it below instead of above.
That's absolutely right. And wait a minute, I might have one to add to that. It's inspired by Corey. Let's see if this one works. I can't remember, so that's why I got to test it first. Yes, it does. Okay, so if you hold down Option and Command, or PC, Alt and Control, try it. Go ahead and hold down those two and click the new layer.
Wait, which one?
Option, Command,
Option Command.
new layer.
Ah, you get them.
That will give you the ability to name it first,
Yes.
right off the bat,
Very nice.
which you should be naming your layers. So
There.
that'll give you good document hygiene.
Oh, one more question here. Do I use any mobile apps to capture images in the field? Yes, actually. I use the camera app on the iPhone. I also use Camera Awesome. Actually, I'm a really big fan of Capture.
Yeah,
Adobe Capture.
Adobe Capture CC.
Uses, allows you to take pictures of textures and various things like that, convert them into brushes, send them over to the Creative Cloud to your desktop application to create really cool brush effects. I'm a big fan of the Adobe Capture app for capturing graphic and texture elements. So.
All right.
Can you save lighting setups in 3D? Yes, you can. We'll get into that more throughout the rest of the week. We are just about out of time, though, so
Yep.
more to come.
And they're asking about your specs on your computer one more time. So it's a MacBook Pro, Core i7, 16 gigs of RAM, and whatever drive he's got in there. And it's a...
It's a 2.8 Core i7, 16 gigs of RAM.
So fairly
It's-
current model. It looks like mid-2015.
The graphics card it's a Radeon 2040. I mean, it's spec'd out, yeah. So it is a monster though. So.
What? You can name a layer. I know, right?
Name a layer.
I know. It's crazy talk.
You got layer one,
Layer
one
layer,
copy. And
no, it's okay when it's layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. When it's layer 55, then you've got a problem.
Yeah, I've had that too many
Yeah,
times.
layer 55 versus layer 34.
Layer 75
which
copy.
One,
Yeah.
which one's that?
That's when you rely on just clicking or command clicking on the object in
Right.
in the image and just selecting it that way. So
Now, Julianne showed a nice tip when I saw her last. Bring up Photoshop your layers one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Got like 2 minutes. Maybe I can find this. Okay, so go to the layer flyout menu, and go to your panel options.
panel options. There we go.
So here's a couple tips. Number one, if you didn't name your layers and you just can't even tell what's on a layer, you can change your thumbnail size. So I can see Corey's already using the larger
I
thumbnail.
use the max one all the time.
But there was another option there for entire document versus live bounds. So sometimes you've got a layer that's the size of your document, but there's only this much on it. So you can make it the bounds of the object, so that's what you see in the layer thumbnail
So it's a-
versus all that empty white space.
If it's a logo on
Right.
on an overall design, you'll
Design,
see
you'll-
that
you'll
logo
see the
will
logo.
fill the thumbnail
Yeah.
in your layers panel. Yeah, so
So pretty cool. And with that said, guys, thanks for watching this first part of the stream. You don't have to go anywhere. We're going to switch presenters. Up next are our creative residents, hosted by the one and only Paul Tranny. And we'll be back tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat
bat chat.
channel. All right. Thanks, guys.
Join us live on twitch.tv/Adobe for a 3-day design extravaganza from April 26th to the 28th. Photoshop Hall of Fame